The world suddenly plunged into chaos when spatial rifts tore through reality, unleashing countless monsters that sowed disaster. Amidst the despair, hunters, those granted power by the system, rose up as saviors. And of course, Ryoga was one of the individuals chosen by fate. By clearing spatial gates, their power progressed from 1 star to the peak of 7 stars. The 7 most outstanding hunters who received blessings from the constellations established the 7 great families, thereby holding absolute global power. As for me, I was the first in human history to reach the 9-star threshold through my own strength, without relying on any constellation. Global media exploded at the time with news of a living legend in the East, when a 9-star hunter officially revealed his identity in Japan. To the 7 great families and the stellar entities, an anomaly like me was a direct threat to the order they had painstakingly established. And now, in the heart of Tokyo, a city reduced to ashes under the flames of hell. They had gathered here to finish me off, a 9-star hunter. The leader came from one of the 7 great families, the Romanov family, a formidable magical clan vying for influence in the Eurasia region. Amidst the ruins, Ryoga gathered all his remaining strength to tightly grip the pocket watch of Kronos. His ragged and heavy breathing echoed in the dead silence. Both Ryoga's body and mind had been pushed to the brink of collapse. Under a sudden flash of light, Ryoga's severed arm was pitifully exposed. He looked up at the empty void, grinding his teeth, cursing in his mind, "You bastard, Dmitri!" On the opposite side, a majestic figure suddenly appeared, the very incarnation of Odin. Dmitri Andreevich Romanov, the Magic King, a bearer of 9-star power, threw Ryoga a contemptuous look. His voice was full of condescension. Who would have thought that a self-made 9-star big shot like you would be kicking the bucket in this dump? Not bothering to mind the mockery, he growled and asked directly, "So why exactly do you want to send me to my grave? Is it because I am self-reliant, needing no blessings from the gods above, or because I refuse to bow to your so-called 7 great families?" Hearing this, Dmitri burst into arrogant laughter before replying, "Let's just say it's both, to put it simply. The constellations are screaming for your life. I'm just following orders. If anyone could climb to the peak on their own like you, what value would those gods have left? Someone bearing the title of Underworld King, who through his own strength can rival the power of the 7 great families and divine blessings, is an unacceptable existence. Besides, the major families are getting sick of constantly bickering with one another." He stood there, listening to Dmitri's every word with clenched fists. It was exactly as he said. He was Ryoga Chinen, a 9-star hunter, a master necromancer. Unable to contain his wrath, he hissed every word. What a bunch of foul-mouthed hypocrites. Before Ryoga could finish speaking, Dmitri interrupted. "As a necromancer, you are defying the laws of nature, toying with death. You have trampled upon the order of this world. In a battle between those who have reached 9 stars, the power from a constellation is the deciding factor of victory. Yet you chose a filthy power, going against life and death. That is why you were forsaken by the stars, and it is also the heaven and earth difference between you and me." Struggling to stand up, he smirked and sneered. "Are you acting so cocky just because you have Odin backing you? Want to know why I've been patiently standing here listening to you bark all this time? I'll show you right now." With that, Ryoga waved his hand, and a burst of dark magic erupted. Immediately, the lifeless piles of white bones scattered on the ground began to twitch and rattle. A chilling clattering echoed, signaling that Ryoga's spell had been activated. Dark Magic Resurrection, Zodiac Art Ultimate Skill, Death Realm. Looking at the legion of white bones neatly forming up behind Ryoga, Dmitri couldn't hide his astonishment. An ultimate skill sustained by souls. Unbelievable that you still retain such terrifying energy. Fine, I will return the favor with my strongest magic. O Underworld King, I will crush your soul into dust. As soon as he finished speaking, he unleashed a massive pillar of energy straight into the sky. Witnessing the familiar magical sequence, Ryoga suddenly realized he was activating the Eye of Odin. His Death Realm skill couldn't withstand that attack. In this situation, just as he predicted, a giant glowing red eye appeared in the sky, its light making a corner of the heavens blaze blindingly. This was one of the sealed ultimate skills, Odin's Eye Art, Supreme Magic, Lord of the Demon Furnace. The moment it was completed, Odin's eyeball blinked, firing a destructive beam of energy straight at Ryoga. In that hair-raising moment, he suddenly smirked in complete satisfaction. "I'm going to die anyway. Why not take a gamble and see? That defiant action caught Dimitri's eye, driving him mad with anger. Did you just smile? Ignoring Dimitri's baffled expression. He raised the pocket watch of Kronos with lightning speed. Just as it absorbed all the power from the opponent's attack, a system notification popped up, an artifact capable of interfering with the flow of time. The pocket watch of Kronos has recognized the energy of a constellation. The power of the constellation has been absorbed into the watch of Kronos, completing the activation condition. Player Ryoga Chinen begins the regression process. Time is reversing, Ryoga thought gleefully. The condition to activate the Watch of Kronos is that its owner must reach 9 stars and feed it the power of a stellar entity. If I don't have a divine blessing, then I just need to borrow his power. Right then, an earth-shattering explosion rang out, its terrifying aftershocks making the entire space tremble violently. Witnessing the unbelievable sight before his eyes, Dimitri was stunned, stammering, "You! What the hell did you do, you underworld king?" Gripping the pocket watch, Ryoga retorted loudly, "That power of Odin you're always so arrogant about, I'll put it to good use. You and the whole bunch of the 7 great families in the next life, I swear I'll crush all of you." As soon as the words fell, a click sounded, and the hands of Kronos' watch spun backwards at breakneck speed. The energy source inside it erupted fiercely. After an endless silence, Ryoga slowly opened his eyes. The devastated battlefield was gone, replaced by a smooth, pristine white ceiling. He bolted upright, his face showing clear panic, his complexion suddenly turning pale. His arm reflexively moved up to clutch his chest. Only then did Ryoga have time to look around and observe the room. He realized with a start, this was clearly his old home. Maybe I actually succeeded, that dog Dimitri. Daring to kill me for such a bullshit reason, just you wait. Right at this moment the system screen appeared. The pocket watch of Kronos is damaged. Holy Relic Tier Artifact, durability 1 out of 10. A treasure left behind across countless dimensions by a constellation that governs time. 2 parallel instances cannot coexist in a single timeline. Rewinding time can no longer be performed. Receiving the information, Ryoga unconsciously chuckled. To think it still worked even without a contract with a constellation. I won this gamble. 23 years have rewound. This is the time right after I left the orphanage. System screen updating. Player Ryoga Chinen. You have been selected by the system. Based on your talent and personal traits, please choose a suitable class. Player Ryoga Chinen, the system has chosen you based on your innate potential. Decide your path. 1-star level. Stats: Strength 6, Speed 6, Vitality 7, Endurance 5, Mana 10. Innate skill: Resolute Mind. Your heart will never waver, granting resistance to all types of mental attacks. Please choose a class. 3 options based on your aptitude: Fighter, Mage, Priest. Pondering for a moment, Ryoga carefully considered it. It seems initially there are only basic classes. In my past life, I chose Mage without a second thought. But this time, there is no need to rush. This time, I will become even stronger and must be the last one surviving. I will fully utilize all the information a 9-star hunter once knew. Matching his thoughts with actions, he quickly headed to the Nasu Ehara Hunter Market. As soon as he stepped into the item shop, the female clerk warmly greeted him. "Welcome, sir. We have swords imported from the magic conglomerate and various gear crafted from the newest materials mined in the tower. Additionally," before the girl could finish her introduction, Ryoga asked directly, "Do you sell the Ring of Darkness?" His unexpected request caught the clerk off guard and she blurted out, "Huh, good heavens. Sir, that item is cursed." Despite being warned, Ryoga was decisive. "I know how much." A moment later, he left the store satisfied, strolling casually while recalling the recent conversation. The clerk had warned him with a serious face. The store will not bear any responsibility for damages once the transaction is complete. Are you still certain you want to buy it? Facing her stern attitude, he only chuckled to himself. Well, it made sense for her to react that way. Normally, no madman would spend 2 million yen on a ring that only brings negative effects. This item just ate up half of my fortune. At this moment, a system notification popped up. Ring of Darkness, rare grade, durability 50 out of 50. An accessory haunted by vengeful souls from the abyss. When worn, its master will be eroded by a mental curse. Grasping the information clearly, Ryoga quickly put the ring on his finger, thinking confidently to himself. But this item hid a secret that no one knew about. Whoever could conquer the curse, after wearing the ring, would receive the knowledge and power of a necromancer. Feeling the current of dark aura surging through his body, his mind felt strangely refreshed, and his gaze became sharper. Crackling sounds of electricity echoed continuously, and the surrounding space began to distort. Before Ryoga's eyes was an endless, bleak gray sky, seeming to want to swallow his small figure whole. Sensing the anomaly, Ryoga tensed up. The curse targeting me is Dimitri. That familiar hoarse voice echoed once again. You monster who only knows how to toy with rotting corpses. Do you really think you can defeat me without the help of the constellations? Don't you get it? Without a divine blessing, you can't even leave a scratch on me, a heretic turned away by the stars like you. Even if you rewind time to do it all over again, the outcome will remain the same. You will never defeat me. Facing Dimitri's fierce verbal assaults and mental attacks, Ryoga didn't flinch at all. He simply smirked, completely disregarding him. A system notification sounded. Spiritual interference has been blocked. Resolute mind has been activated. Complete immunity. You have overcome the trial of the Ring of Darkness. The necromancer energy hidden within the ring has awakened. Everything went exactly as calculated, making him cheer inwardly. The secret to breaking this curse was to not resist. Thanks to knowing that secret, I became the first necromancer in the world. Do you think I cannot confront the 7 great families if I lack the blessings of the constellations? Then I will create a constellation myself, a god who will choose me, a necromancer. The system screen displayed, congratulations on passing the test of the Ring of Darkness. Necromancy ability has awakened. Item upgraded from rare to epic. Clenching the ring, Ryoga nodded in satisfaction. All right, let's begin. Acting on his words, he immediately selected his class on the system screen. Please make your class choice. 4 paths based on your special aptitude: fighter, mage, necromancer, or priest. Without a shred of hesitation, Ryoga chose necromancer, a profession that uses corpses and souls as mediums to cast magic. He intently read every line of information displayed with full excitement. Reward for choosing your first class. Acquire the trait Death's Guide. Monostat is converted into spirit power. With the Death's Guide skill, the spirit power consumed when summoning or sustaining magic is reduced by 20%. Reading up to this point, Ryoga nodded slightly. Truly not a bad start. Pausing for a moment, he muttered, but I can only use 2 skills right now. The system immediately displayed information about the skills he just mentioned. Summon Zombie Level 1. Control magic strictly requires the user to be a necromancer or possess a necromancy trait. And Bone Control Skill Level 1. Used to infuse energy into bones and control them. Reading the familiar words again, he felt a bit nostalgic. It seems because time reversed, everything has to be done from scratch. Even so, that wouldn't pose a problem for Ryoga. He pondered. The knowledge from the ring helped me use skills, but it seems I'm still limited by the system's level and star ranking. I could reach 7 stars if I follow the normal path. However, to touch the 9-star peak, those methods won't be effective. Becoming a necromancer early is an advantage, but that alone is not enough. Dimitri, to defeat him, I need a guardian constellation. The moment the thought flashed by, Ryoga immediately took action. He swiftly headed to where the god he was looking for resided. At this time at the Shrine of Kronos, tourists were crowding around. As soon as he set foot here, Ryoga recalled the legendary battle of the gods. The mighty Titan gods had lost their glory after being defeated by Zeus and the gods of Olympus. While some still existed as constellations, accepting the rule of Olympus, like the sun god Helios. Thinking of this, he stopped his steps, silently observing the space in front of him. Ryoga looked down at the cracked watch of Kronos in his hand and thought to himself, but its true master was on a completely different level. Now then, it's time to meet a fallen god. He raised the watch of Kronos high, and then suddenly smashed it down on the table decisively. Right as it almost shattered, a flash of light from inside suddenly burst out. Immediately after, the surrounding space shook violently as if compressed by an invisible force. After a few minutes of tremors, everything finally settled down. But Ryoga's heart raced as a deep, majestic voice rang out. Who goes there? He was startled and quickly turned toward the source of the sound. The voice roared angrily, "Which bastard dares to act so insolently before me?" Facing the god's wrath, Ryoga not only felt no fear but also smirked in amusement. He spoke up arrogantly, It is a pleasure to meet you, the deposed king of the Titans, Kronos. Looking at the tiny figure in front of him, Kronos paused, his eyes filled with doubt. The watch in Ryoga's hand suddenly flashed, catching his attention. Realizing the situation, Kronos raised his voice and asked, "Kid, are you the one who reversed time?" Ryoga shrugged, replying nonchalantly, "As you can see." Examining Ryoga thoroughly, Kronos asked with interest, "To be able to regress, you must have been a big shot in the human world, but what is your purpose in awakening me?" Not rushing to answer, Ryoga looked straight at Kronos and thought. Kronos, father of the supreme Zeus, the god who once swallowed his own children because of a prophecy, but after losing everything, now he is just a forgotten name. Surely the fire of hatred for Olympus is still smoldering in his chest. Grasping that, he cleverly brought it up. "Don't you want to get your revenge?" Ryoga's blunt question left Kronos dumbfounded. He was so shocked he stammered, What did you just say?" Pressing his advantage, he quickly offered, "If you accept becoming my guardian constellation, I will help you fulfill that wish." The words had barely left his mouth when Kronos laughed, his tone full of disdain. "A puny human wants to meddle in my revenge. Someone who doesn't even have a shred of Olympus's power dares to tell me to submit." Facing the disparagement, Ryoga said nothing more, only unconsciously gripping the pocket watch tighter. Mustering all his courage, he retorted frankly, "You can verify it yourself. I reached 9 stars without any blessing, and Zeus is also on my hit list." At this mention, his resentment surged up again, making Ryoga think to himself. Not just the Romanov family, but the entire 7 great families who stood by and watched are all my enemies. Returning to the conversation, he proposed directly, "If I wipe out the Carmel's family, those who worship the Olympus gods, their influence on this earth will vanish into smoke." Hearing this, Kronos laughed. "Compared to my revenge, your ambition seems rather small. You may have been strong enough to activate my watch, but to think someone wanting to receive my blessing would choose the path of necromancy after being reborn. I am inherently incompatible with that power which goes against the laws of nature. The essence of a necromancer is completely opposite to my nature." Understanding his concern, he immediately presented his argument. "As the god of time, that is true, but it's different if it's the god of agriculture. Depending on their abilities, constellations will form contracts with hunters who share similarities. Kronos, the god who governs both harvest and time. The scythe, the symbol of harvest, is also the image of the grim reaper. Harvest and death share the same essence, the cycle of life and rebirth, or in other words, defying destiny." But as soon as he finished speaking, Kronos suddenly flew into a rage. He roared frantically, "To think you dare equate the essence of death with me! Don't be so arrogant, you puny human!" The terrifying pressure from Kronos' fury made the already desolate space violently tremble once again. A wave of panic washed over Ryoga, making him break into a cold sweat. He hastily tried to calm down the crumbling god. Hey, now is not the time to give a retirement speech, old man. Do you plan to gnaw away the rest of your life in humiliation, watching your power and fame vanish into smoke? If you accept being a stepping stone for the Olympus gods, then go right ahead. As for me, I came here betting that you would choose to wash away your grudge, even if it means turning into something completely different. Let's reclaim our power together, and then we will level the peak of Olympus." Tough on the outside, but inside Ryoga, his nerves were stretched taut like a string about to snap. There's no turning back now. If I fail this time, my life is practically over. A moment later, Kronos' rage dissipated, replaced by a chillingly gleeful smile. The god nodded slowly, his voice suddenly deepening. "You are right. Not for a single moment have I forgotten this grudge. Then, let me see if you are qualified to be the blade for my revenge. Turning a god of agriculture into one who defies heavenly destiny, Do you know that to reverse my nature, you will have to taste the pain of having your soul torn apart? If you can endure it, I will officially be your constellation." As soon as the words left his mouth, an earth-shattering energy erupted from Kronos, shaking the entire space. Everything happened so fast that Ryoga froze. Wait, why so sudden? He hadn't even prepared himself mentally. Ignoring his bewildered expression, the god began to cast a spell. "I appoint you as my representative. As my saint." Hearing this, Ryoga was stunned, his ears ringing. What? A saint? A saint is a class that receives power as the incarnation of a constellation. The dark attribute of a necromancer and the holy power of a saint. Two conflicting energies were tearing each other apart inside his body. If he collapsed now, the chance of gaining a guardian constellation would vanish into thin air. Kronos remained silent, his piercing eyes tracking every subtle change on Ryoga's face. The pressure from the god's scrutinizing gaze, coupled with the internal clash of energies, made him feel like he was about to pass out. But Ryoga gritted his teeth and endured it. He had to hold on. A few hours later, a familiar figure casually dragged his suitcase out of the airport gate. His confident demeanor now was a world apart from his miserable state when facing Kronos' trial. Having just set foot back in Japan, he couldn't hide his excitement. There's truly no place like home. Surprisingly, Kronos also appeared right next to him. He clicked his tongue, looking thoughtful. My, this world has changed so much. The flow of time is truly a wondrous yet cruel thing. What do you think, contractor? At that moment, a system notification popped up. A new constellation has risen in the divine sanctuary, the Harvester, the giant who defies the heavens. Look at his smug face, Ryoga sighed inwardly. He couldn't even grant a decent blessing right now, yet he kept showing off. Turning away, he dropped a subtle hint. You're talking too much. Ryoga thought to himself as he walked. Even though Kronos had regained his constellation status, his power and blessings hadn't recovered yet due to a lack of followers. Yet, he looked so pleased with himself. Honestly, I just forced him into the Death Saint archetype based on general concepts when reincarnating as a constellation. Lacking heaven-defying achievements, we must start building them from scratch to restore his power. Ignoring his skeptical gaze, the god let his emotions overflow. To be reborn after all this time, it truly moves me. Since I took the trouble to make you a saint from now on, it is your responsibility to spread my name, understood? This absurd task falling from the sky left Ryoga feeling drained, so I've been dragged into another ridiculous situation. Priests and saints are both top-tier classes. I thought he was just transferring energy, who knew he would turn a necromancer into a priest. Now he possessed the skill saint of the White Knight, which increased holy magic efficiency by 30% and removed penalties when using necromancy skills. An additional trait allowed him to switch between holy power and spiritual power, while also granting the ability to use all equipment and skills of both priests and mages. Life absorption is a type of holy magic capable of draining a target's life force to heal or strengthen the body, carrying the attribute of holy power tainted by death. He sank into thought. A saint, a priest, both rely on holy power, but a necromancer wields spiritual power, using two conflicting sources of power at the same time. I've never heard of anything like this before. His astonishment made Ryoga involuntarily blurt out. Being able to use necromancy and cast the holy magic of a saint at the same time, this is truly overpowered. Hearing that, Kronos stepped in. A saint is the representative of a constellation. I didn't choose you without reason, Ryoga chuckled. Oh, so everything was part of your plan. Praised, Kronos patted his chest proudly. Of course, I was once the king of gods after all. The cheerful conversation suddenly halted. Ryoga became serious and thoughtful. He looked intrigued. At this point, an old gate would be the perfect choice. The image of an ancient garden immediately appeared in Ryoga's mind. It was the ideal place to test his new power. At the gathering area, the spatial gate leading to the training area was already open. As soon as he arrived, Ryoga's memories came flooding back. There are gates that serve as connection points between this world and other dimensions. They are divided into two types: mobile ones, which disappear after hunters defeat the final boss and destroy the energy core, and fixed ones which exist permanently. At this moment, the system screen displayed the information: Ancient Garden type, fixed, entry requirement 1 star, scale, medium, mana density 52%. He carefully observed the gate. Since it was a fixed gate, the Ancient Garden was limited to 1 star, a perfect place for rookie hunters. Around the waiting area, other hunters were busy preparing. Laughter and chatter filled the air. Be careful. Oh my god, this is my first time entering a gate. Just waiting for one more fighter and our team will be full. Looking at them, Ryoga couldn't help but recall his own struggling days. Everyone is busy finding teammates, huh? I used to be like that too, even knowing full well I'd never find a decent party. Lost in thought, a loud call pulled him back to reality. Hey, you there. If you're going alone, do you want to join our party? Faced with a friendly invitation from Yuma's group, Ryoga just decisively turned away, replying indifferently, which left them dumbfounded. Thanks, but I'm good. Hearing that, Yuma was slightly awkward but remained polite. "Ah, I understand." Nevertheless, he couldn't hide his concern. "He looks like a rookie. Will he be okay going alone?" Yuka, standing nearby, couldn't help but snap. "Why do you care so much? He already refused, so don't worry about it." On this side, Ryoga was entirely focused on his goal. He thought excitedly. With this difficulty, going solo is more than enough. It's time to test out the new power. A few minutes later, upon stepping through the gate, the system announced, "Welcome to the ancient garden." Overly familiar with this place, Ryoga took a leisurely stroll. A strange scent drifted by, making him mutter, "The atmosphere here is unusually quiet. According to the script, something should be jumping out to attack me right about now. I'm guessing the appetizer this time is." Before Ryoga could even finish his sentence, a scrawny dark shadow darted from behind him. He spoke nonchalantly, as if he had foreseen it. "Definitely a goblin." The goblin swung its dagger at him. With a gentle tilt to the left, Ryoga dodged the razor-sharp blade. Losing its momentum, the goblin stumbled forward. Seizing the moment, Ryoga's firm hands reached out, grabbing its tiny neck. "Thanks for going out of your way to deliver yourself." A surge of magic was cast. Innate trait White Knight activated, converting spiritual power into holy power. Life absorption. Classification, holy magic, effect, drains the enemy's life force to heal or strengthen the body. Attribute, holy power carrying the breath of death. Deploying skill, life absorption. As soon as the spell activated, Ryoga immediately felt it. The sensation of wielding holy power is quite similar to spiritual power. As he spoke, his grip tightened, leaving the goblin to struggle in despair. In just a split second, its entire life force was drained dry, flowing straight into Ryoga's body and bringing an unusually refreshing sensation. As the dried corpse of the goblin hit the ground, the system displayed, "You have drained the goblin's life force. Basic stats increased." Ryoga clearly felt the change in his body. Speed plus 0-1, strength plus 0-1. He cheered in delight. "Unbelievable, just taking them down with this move increases my stats. If leveling up grants 5 potential points each time, then killing 50 goblins is basically equivalent to gaining a level." Seeing Ryoga's sparkling eyes, Kronos suddenly appeared from behind. With a smug tone, he asked, "Contractor, are you satisfied with this gift?" Ryoga nodded without hesitation. "It's absolutely wonderful." Being praised for the first time, Kronos looked ecstatic. "Praise me, worship my greatness." Though reluctant, Ryoga had to nod. "All right, I'll admit he's right this time." Remembering the main task, he muttered, "All right, there's a corpse right here, let's begin." Saying that, Ryoga channeled a small stream of spiritual power into the corpse at his feet. He began to chant, "Answer my call, arise undead." Receiving the command, the goblin's arm twitched slightly. Right after, its entirely motionless body began to stir. It slowly sat up, then gradually stood up straight under Ryoga's expectant gaze. When the summoning process was complete, the system screen displayed the information. Undead completion rate, 97.28%. All stats increased. Undead goblin race, undead rank, 1 star. Looking at the result before him, Ryoga smirked in satisfaction. With this strength, it's more than enough to sweep through the ancient garden. Right at that moment, strange noises echoed behind him. A pack of goblins had arrived out of nowhere. Every single one of their faces was brimming with murderous intent. The loud commotion startled both of them, making them turn around. Upon seeing them, Ryoga looked amused. "A perfect opportunity for a combat test. Go get them." Receiving the order, the undead goblin rushed toward the 3 goblins at a terrifying speed. It quickly closed the distance, sinking its sharp teeth into one of their necks. The other 2 stood frozen in horror. The undead slammed its victim into the ground, tearing at it frantically. Seizing the chance, another goblin viciously stabbed its back with a dagger, veins popping on its arm. Seeing the undead completely unharmed, they began to show fear. Ryoga laughed. "What's wrong? Scared because it won't die? It's an undead, stabbing its vital spots is useless." As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed the nearest goblin with lightning speed. Lifting it up, Ryoga said coldly, "Do you take me for thin air?" Without hesitation, he cast his spell, activating innate trait White Knight. In just a few seconds, the goblin's life force was completely drained. Ryoga coldly threw the corpse to the ground. Witnessing that scene, the last goblin trembled in fear, its despairing eyes fixed on the undead. Not letting it down, The undead lunged forward, opening its wide mouth to chomp on its prey. Seizing the opportunity, Ryoga activated his skill. Let's see if I can absorb life force from a dead body. Oh, it still works on corpses. The compatibility of life absorption is truly high. If so, I need to speed up the process even more. Before he could even catch his breath, another swarm of goblins flooded in. Ryoga couldn't help but feel thrilled. There's a saying among necromancers, once you take down the first one, the plan is already half successful. Ryoga stepped aside, releasing a wave of spiritual power, turning the newly fallen corpses into a new undead army. He shouted, "Obey my command," skill used, summon undead. Reaching this stage, Ryoga muttered softly in satisfaction. Creating the first undead is always the most challenging part. Once that's done, everything else becomes much easier. This time, the completion rates of all 4 undead reached impressive levels, with bonus stats at 97.5% and 98.18% respectively. Looking at his army, he smirked. This is the exact feeling. Necromancer truly is top-tier choice. The undead horde and the pack of goblins clashed in a chaotic brawl. With the difference in power, the undead quickly gained the upper hand. Despite having daggers thrust through their bodies, they felt no pain whatsoever. Dark, foul blood seeped from their wounds. But the undead stood as firm as a rock. The terrified goblins instinctively backed away. But it was too late. An undead counterattacked, pouncing to pin its enemy to the ground before frantically tearing at it. Standing and observing the battle, Kronos dropped a reminder. As my contractor, I expect you to show a more majestic aura when fighting. Ryoga just shrugged. Get used to it, this is the style of a necromancer. The system screen displayed a notification right after he finished converting the final batch of undead, reached the limit of controllable undead. Current, 2020. Done, Ryoga gently withdrew his hand. The freshly slain goblins immediately rose up, ready for orders. Like a pack of wild beasts, the undead army charged toward their prey. Their numbers and strength were now completely overwhelming. Just then, from afar, a familiar voice rang out, "Fire arrow." A flaming arrow pierced through the air, plunging into an undead and making it shriek in pain. The attack was interrupted. The undead horde stood frozen in bewilderment, not understanding what had just happened. Ryoga called out loudly, "Hold on. Stop hiding and come out." Exposed, a group of people slowly stepped out. Seeing Ryoga, Yuma, Yuka, and Ehara asked in surprise, "Who are you?" Kronos only now noticed something unusual and asked quietly, "Is something wrong?" Looking at the group before him, Ryoga replied, his voice full of suspicion, "It seems. I've met them somewhere before. It's the Twin Shadows Hunter duo." Hearing that, Kronos was also startled. The Twin Shadows Hunters. Having confirmed their identities, Ryoga's face darkened. He ground out every word. "That's right. The very ones who tried to assassinate me in my past life." The girl holding the bow and the guy holding the shield were the duo Yuma and Yuka Endo, famous under the moniker Twin Shadows. They were a renowned twin sibling duo in the hunter community. Ryoga rubbed his chin, smiling in amusement. "In my past life, dealing with these two was quite a hassle, but looking at them now, they are nothing to worry about." Probably because both are still stuck at the 1-star level. "But I remember there used to be only 2 of them. Why is there a third person now?" Kronos suggested seriously. "How about we take this chance to pull them out by the roots?" Ryoga silently disagreed. "Let it go. They were only acting on a contract. There is no personal grudge between us." Yuma spoke up and asked, "Those undead are being controlled by you, aren't they?" Hearing that, Ryoga suddenly realized. Right, at this point in time, necromancers aren't widely known yet. With that in mind, he confirmed it. "Exactly, those are my summoned creatures." His gaze drifted downward again, as if having something hard to say. Ryoga looked at the glowing red gem inside the goblin's body, thinking to himself, "It's very useful for carrying things. Anyway, most people become hunters just for the money." With that thought, he offered, "Hey, do you guys want to cooperate on a business deal?" Yuma was surprised. "What? Why would you suddenly propose that?" Ryoga confidently laid out the deal. "I want to hire you guys to collect magic stones. The split ratio is 8-2. I clear the monsters, you pick up the money. Easy peasy." All 3 of them showed hesitation at his offer. "So, what do you think?" Time ticked by in the silent forest. The 3 huddled together to discuss. Yuka looked uneasy. "Yuma, don't be foolish enough to trust this weirdo." Ehara also agreed. She's right, bro, I've never seen a hunter summon undead before. Watching them whisper in front of him, Ryoga gave a long yawn. He was starting to lose his patience. Standing around discussing back and forth is such a waste of time. After finishing their discussion, Yuma turned back. Yuka and Ehara still tried to hold him back. Wait a minute, hold on. Ignoring their protests, he remained resolute. All right, we agree. Then he added, but on the condition that the profit split must be 50-50. If divided that way, each of us will only get about 1.7 shares. Hearing that, Ryoga waved his hand, coldly concluding, final offer 7-3. If you don't agree, then forget it. Having no other choice, Yuma had to accept. Fine, I agree. Ehara still spoke with a voice full of unease. Are you absolutely sure about this choice, bro? Seeing his friend's anxious face, he could only soothe him. Just relax, don't overreact. Yuma firmly replied with a steady look. Just trust me. If that guy had any dark schemes, we'd have been wiped out ages ago. In his mind, he secretly analyzed. Clearly, that guy walked through the gate completely unarmed, yet exuded an aura of absolute confidence. Realizing that Ryoga possessed overwhelming strength, the trust in his heart was further consolidated. He thought to himself, following this guy will definitely skyrocket the group's income compared to the usual rate. Before long, a groaning voice echoed from within the forest. I can't drag myself another step. Ehara was already lying flat on the ground, completely exhausted as he pleaded, please, give me a minute to recharge my energy. Yuka also leaned against a nearby tree, out of breath. My stamina tank is about to hit rock bottom too. Meanwhile, Yuma had just placed the last red gem in his hand, onto the pile of loot stacked high at their feet. He glanced back, unable to stop himself from silently marveling. I knew right from the start that this guy was far from ordinary. The sight of Ryoga single-handedly sweeping through the entire goblin horde left Yuma stunned. It had truly surpassed the limits of his imagination. Just as he tossed the last goblin onto the ground, Ryoga spoke up with satisfaction. Hey, look, there's a whole mountain of money scattered all over the ground. Hearing that, he hesitantly made a suggestion. Could we take a short break? Nearby, the zombie goblin summoned by Ryoga was still diligently tearing apart its prey. He glanced over at the two fighting goblins and dropped a remark. There's still a lot of work to do over here. Then he turned back to the fiends with a bright smile, explaining, I don't mean to rush you, take your time, everyone. Witnessing his appearance brimming with vitality, the other three grimaced, only able to silently lament in their hearts. No way, this guy is definitely a monster in human skin. Looking at the goblin corpses littering the ground, he spoke up. Looks like the surrounding area has been cleaned up quite nicely. After that, he turned his eyes to the virtual screen in front of him, muttering to himself. Now it's time to check the personal stat window. A series of Ryoga's parameters instantly displayed. Strength leaped from 7 to 13.1, speed increased from 6 to 15.3, vitality went from 7 to 10, endurance from 5 to 6.5, while mana, holy power and life energy simultaneously rose from 10 to 11.3. He broke into a satisfied smile, thinking to himself, unbelievable, total stats have increased by 21.2 points after just 3 hours of farming monsters. At this rate, my current power is on par with a rank 4 hunter. The life absorption skill is truly an unimaginable bargain. He quickly informed the group, my level has also successfully ranked up. Without a hint of hesitation, he proposed, well then, shall we go take care of this area's boss right now? The scene abruptly shifted. A goblin leader perched up high suddenly spoke, look at that. It roared furiously, yet another bunch of foolish humans crawling here to throw their lives away. Ryoga appeared with a demeanor full of confidence, dropping a sarcastic remark, look at that attitude, a stupid goblin playing at being the regional overlord. Hearing that, Yuka frowned and warned, wait, that goblin shaman is the leader ruling over this entire southern sector. I think it's best we don't piss it off. The goblin leader's eyes suddenly flashed, emitting a terrifying pressure as it ordered, make that human kneel and drag him before me at once. Receiving the command, the goblin underlings below immediately roared and swarmed forward in massive numbers. Not giving them a chance to take control of the situation, he transmitted an order to his zombie goblins, tear them into tiny pieces for me. The undead army was no less fierce. They launched a surprise attack, leaving the enemy with no time to react. Feeling its arm being bitten, a goblin immediately swung its other arm up to counterattack. A heaven-shaking blow sent fresh blood splattering everywhere. That attack took down an undead. The system coldly announced, the number of active summoned monsters has decreased to 19 out of 20. Seeing this, Ryoga immediately spoke up, heed my call. As soon as he finished speaking, the hand of the fallen undead goblin suddenly twitched. It slowly got up as if nothing had happened. System notification, 20 out of 20. As soon as it stood firm, it immediately charged to counterattack the enemy. Beyond imagination, the undead goblin quickly tore off the opponent's arm. Watching the scene from afar, the three of them couldn't help but gape in astonishment. Yuma couldn't hide his shock. What the hell is going on? Even though he has the numbers advantage, but why could it be? He's turning the enemy's corpses into his own minions. Suddenly, the goblin chief up ahead slowly stood up. He raised the bone scepter in his hand and began chanting, Kim Malasalakara. Then, he violently struck the scepter into the ground. An information panel appeared. The totem of bravery is beginning to buff the entire goblin tribe. A mysterious power began to spread through the bodies of his subordinate goblins. That action made the goblin chief even more smug. My totem will cast a curse upon the enemies and bestow blessings upon all allies. Behold the power of the mighty goblin warriors. Hearing that, Ryoga merely smirked. What kind of nonsense did you just spew out, you ugly toad? His blunt remark froze its smug expression, and green veins began to pop on its forehead. The goblin chief gritted its teeth and roared furiously. How dare a lowly human insult my sacred totem? Suddenly, a row of skull bone scepters identical to the chief sprouted from the ground. Immediately, the undead goblins rushed to attack those newly emerged scepters. Watching his minions break the bone staffs, Ryoga spoke up. In your dreams, if you think I'll just stand by and let you execute your plan. Realizing his scheme had been exposed, the furious goblin chief tightly gripped the scepter in his hand. Seeing this, he smiled provocatively. What's wrong? Feeling so helpless, aren't you? Suddenly, the bone scepter in the chief's hand was once again slammed hard into the ground. The object pinned to the ground suddenly glowed upon hearing its master's plea. O embodiment of madness, arise and appear. A notification popped up. Frenzy magic has been officially activated. The moment the magic was activated, a terrifying pressure spread out, sending shivers down the spines of the trio watching from afar. The magic formation prompted the system to display a notification. The strength and speed of all goblins have increased by 50%. Instantly, an undead goblin was destroyed. 19 out of 20. One by one, the zombie goblins fell. 18 out of 20, 15 out of 20. That number kept dropping uncontrollably, 10 out of 20. As a result, a series of corpses lay scattered on the ground. System notification, 8 out of 20. Ryoga maintained his calm, silently assessing the situation. So that scepter is his final trump card. Seeing this, the goblin chief boasted triumphantly. Have you seen clearly, human? This is the bone scepter that I painstakingly crafted by sealing the entire resentment of the goblin race into it. Hearing about the staff's mechanism, he involuntarily smiled and exclaimed, Oh, so that thing is made of bone. Ryoga's eyes gradually radiated murderous intent as he remarked, Perfect. Then things are simple again. He quickly reached out his hand, activating the skill, bone manipulation. Suddenly, the scepter in the goblin's hand vibrated violently, forcing it to grip it tightly and exclaim in panic, What is this? Unfortunately, its strength was limited. It could only reach out in despair as the scepter flew away without being able to do anything. Ryoga easily caught the scepter. System notification. The chanting process of the frenzy magic has been forcibly terminated. The goblin chief panicked at his skill, screaming, What kind of devilry did you just do? System notification. The goblin horde has snapped out of the frenzy state. As an inevitable consequence, their strength and speed have severely plummeted. Ryoga raised the bone scepter, smiling in an amused and provocative manner. What are you getting so worked up for? Feel free to use your favorite incantation. The scepter in Ryoga's hand emitted a strange black smoke. A system window immediately popped up. New skill bone manipulation level 1. Magic class, restricted to necromancers or those with similar traits. The skill allows infusing energy into bones to manipulate them at will. Ryoga inspected the scepter in his hand, then laughed heartily. Perhaps because it still holds lingering resentment, its response time is much better than normal bones. He held it out forward, the corner of his lips slightly twitching up. He broke into a wide grin, giving this back to you. As soon as he spoke, the scepter in Ryoga's hand immediately tore through the wind and shot straight towards the goblin shaman. It widened its eyes in terror, exclaiming, "What? Impossible!" In the blink of an eye, the sharp staff pierced through its throat, finishing it off decisively. The object gleamed with an eerie blue light, reflecting the goblin shaman's final moment. Its body immediately collapsed to the ground. At the same time, the system window popped up, activating life drain. Consecutive notifications appeared. Speed stat increased by 0.5. Strength stat increased by 0.3. Magic stat increased by 1.3. Ryoga looked at his achievements, his voice full of satisfaction. Since this was a shaman, the stats gained are truly impressive. Suddenly, he stopped, as if he just remembered something. His teammates were slightly stunned seeing Ryoga like that. Before they could understand what was going on, he immediately bent down. He carefully used a small vial to collect the goblin shaman's blood, then gently shook the bottle, sighing in relief inwardly. Almost forgot. I used up most of its blood for the life drain skill. As the thought passed, he quickly stood up, safely stowing the blood vial while speaking in a deep tone to assign the task. I'll have to rely entirely on you guys to clean up the battlefield. Yuma hesitated for a moment, then nodded in response. All right, I understand. He looked around the devastated scene, feeling somewhat apprehensive. Do we really have to clean up this entire mess? Not long after, a modern city appeared with the blinding sunlight, reflecting off every glass window of the high-rise buildings. Ryoga landed gently. He walked out of the spatial portal with a swagger, feeling an unusual sense of comfort. The other teammates followed right behind him, but all of them looked exhausted, sighing heavily. As they strolled leisurely through the crowd, non-stop whispers echoed in their ears. That amount of magic stones is truly a massive number. Could it be that just 4 people wiped out all those monsters? This sounds so absurd, unbelievable. Suddenly, Ryoga turned around, calmly saying, Everyone did a great job. Should we take these stones to the shop in Nasuehara? Yuma, hearing that, bluntly replied, Number to get the best price. It's better if we transport them ourselves. He paused for a moment and continued, Of course, that is if you truly trust us with them. Ryoga frowned slightly upon hearing this, questioning in a deep voice, You mean I should trust people I just met for the first time today? Seeing his distant attitude, the whole group felt so wrong they were on the verge of tears. Yuma argued in a small voice, But we really tried our best. Ryoga immediately softened his tone to reassure them. Come on, relax, I was just joking. Then he crossed his arms, looking at them sternly. According to a rough estimate, how much can this pile sell for? Yuma replied slowly. At a glance, we can probably make about 6 million yen. Suddenly, Ryoga reached out and snatched the skull staff out of his bag. Yuma looked at it, then calmly commented, However, I think that scepter is probably not worth much. Ryoga gripped the staff, asking skeptically, Why do you assume that? He calmly explained, Because its usage requirements and attributes look quite vague. A system panel immediately popped up, Staff of Resentment. Grade, Rare, Type, Scepter. Restriction, only priests can use it. This is a cursed weapon. Forged from the accumulated resentment of countless goblins, it provides an abundant amount of spiritual power, but erodes the user's mind. Effects: increases spiritual power by 30%, reduces spiritual power consumption by 12%. Warning: low chance of triggering the Curse of Chaos status. Yuma continued to critique. Even though it heavily boosts spiritual power, it's absurd that only a priest can use it. Priests originally don't have the ability to manipulate or control spiritual power anyway. Meanwhile, Ryoga gave a faint, meaningful smirk. He quickly offered, If that's the case, could you guys let me have it? He looked slightly doubtful. Wait, are you serious? Are you for real? Ryoga looked straight into his eyes, nodding firmly. Yes. Just deduct its value from my share when we split the payment. Seeing this, Yuma panicked, hastily replying, No way. If it weren't for you, we would have never gotten this item. We'll just pretend it never dropped and give it to you. Right after, he turned to ask the other teammates, What does everyone think about this idea? Any objections? Ehara gently shook his head, softly replying, I'll follow your arrangement. Yuka, standing nearby, also agreed, I think it's fine too. At the same time, Ryoga quietly observed them. He smiled faintly, feeling pleased inwardly. I'm starting to like how this party works. Then Ryoga turned on his heel to leave, cheerfully saying, Your party name is Rookies, right? Let's go hunting together again tomorrow. Yuma raised his hand high in a salute, his voice resounding, "Got it." The next day, a lush forest appeared. The system displayed a notification. "You have officially entered the space of the ancient garden." Ryoga silently cast his magic. Then he stood watching the undead goblin he created charge in to attack another goblin. After that, he calmly turned his head to look back. Ryoga's nonchalant voice rang out, "Do you guys still have enough strength to keep going?" Behind him, Yuma's party was completely exhausted. They collapsed among the pile of goblin corpses, panting heavily. Yuma spoke with difficulty. I'm afraid we can't push ourselves any further today." He pointed at the bags next to them, continuing to explain, "Our inventory bags are also completely full, not a single gap left." Seeing this, Ryoga calmly said, "Then you guys can head back first." Out of breath, Yuma just let out a faint "uh." After they left, he immediately took out the skull scepter, then used it to create an army of undead goblins. Kronos suddenly appeared right before his eyes, asking in a deep voice, "Why did you intentionally chase them away so early?" Ryoga feigned surprise. "Was I that obvious?" Suddenly, his eyes sharpened. He lowered his voice. "From this moment on, I don't want anyone to witness what I am about to do." Not long after, they proceeded to the northern area of the ancient garden. This place was unusually gloomy and silent, with only the sound of the wind softly rustling through the leaves. The bushes in front of Ryoga rustled slightly, and then pairs of bloodshot eyes appeared one after another, staring intently at him. Suddenly, a swarm of frogmen wielding sharp spears charged forward, intending to ambush Ryoga from behind. Ryoga's undead goblins didn't fall behind either. They charged forward simultaneously, howling fiercely. A goblin grabbed a frogman's arm and immediately used its teeth to attack. The frogman flinched and broke free from the painful bite. It raised the spear in its hand high, viciously stabbing it down into the goblin. With every thrust from the frogman, the system notified, 19 out of 20. As the number on the system panel decreased, it meant an undead goblin was defeated, 18 out of 20. Gradually, the goblin army was completely overwhelmed by the frogmen. Ryoga silently observed, carefully calculating in his mind. The frogman race has far superior stats to goblins, so this outcome was inevitable. He immediately threw the scepter in his hand, shouting loudly, "Medicine manipulation skill." The scepter tore through the wind, then effortlessly pierced through a frogman. The system suddenly popped up, "Oil Rain. Effect. Reduces damage from piercing physical attacks." The frogman laughed triumphantly, as Ryoga's attack became ineffective against it. Seeing its smug demeanor, he grew furious. Ryoga immediately lunged forward, delivering a kick that sent the frogman flying backward. Following his momentum, it flew backward and got pinned to a tree trunk by the scepter. At the same time, the system notification appeared. By infusing additional spiritual energy, the piercing physical damage from the Staff of Resentment has been enhanced. Ryoga let out a cold snort and quietly retracted his leg. He shouted, "Continue using medicine manipulation." The scepter immediately obeyed. It flew out, piercing through each frogman one by one. Finally, he reached out to catch the scepter, calculating inwardly. Controlling the scepter while maintaining the undead horde consumes way too much of my spiritual power. At the same time, a series of notifications rang out. Spiritual power has dropped by 35%. The continuous energy consumption state is being activated. Ryoga redirected his magic onto the frogman. The system constantly beeped, using undead summoning magic. Maintaining spiritual power consumption state, reduced by another 20%. By this point, he was truly exhausted. His hands trembled slightly, but he still reassured himself. At this level, I can still control the situation. Ryoga's voice echoed through the space, "Arise the undead." The frogmen were immediately completely dominated by him. They stood up in unison, their eyes turning lifeless. Right after, they charged in to attack the other unaffected frogmen. That frogman seemingly couldn't react in time, and was very quickly pinned to the ground by the undead. Dark green blood immediately splattered everywhere. Simultaneously, the system also rang out, "Congratulations, you have leveled up to level 6. Ryoga observed everything around him, then flashed a satisfied smile, "Excellent. At this rate, I'll soon regain my peak form." He remembered Dimitri, shivering with excitement inwardly. "Just you wait, you Magic King. I'll come settle the score with you sooner than you think." The scene shifted to an ancient temple hidden deep in the forest. Ryoga followed Kronos' guidance inside. Behind him was an army of undead frogmen. Ryoga took out a green heart, smiling with amusement. Kronos dropped a skeptical remark. "Hey contractor, what exactly are you scheming?" He didn't even bother turning his head, his voice sounding somewhat annoyed. "I need to concentrate highly, so keep quiet for a bit." Ryoga muttered under his breath. "If I drip the blood of the goblin shaman onto this frogman's heart." When the goblin's blood touched the dark green heart, it immediately started beating again. At the same time, a powerful magical aura radiated out around it. Ryoga excitedly watched the heart beating rhythmically, as if it had life in his hands. He gave a sinister smile. "I will be able to enter the hidden area, the place that wouldn't be discovered by others until many years later." As soon as he finished speaking, the familiar system sound chimed. "You have successfully decrypted the secret of the ancient garden." Initiating teleportation to the ancient arena. Soon enough, Ryoga and his army of undead frogmen were teleported to an ancient arena. In his ears was the system notification. "You have set foot in the ancient arena area." Ryoga leisurely walked on the barren, cracked ground. He swept his gaze all over the place, a satisfied smile quietly blooming on his lips. In his previous life, he searched until his eyes grew tired but couldn't find it, yet now it appeared right before his eyes. All of a sudden, a spatial portal slowly materialized right in front of him. Immediately, the massive claw of a monster reached out from inside. Ryoga watched in silence, a surging sense of anticipation in his chest. The system panel appeared instantly. "This trial only allows one person to participate." It continued to display notifications. "Use this trial ground to prove your courage and potential." After reading the notification, Ryoga laughed heartily. "It's here." He looked up at the colossal dragonkin before him, treating it as a brand new prey. The system voice rang in his ears. "A dragonkin has appeared. The time limit is 10 minutes. You will be rewarded if you can survive past that time mark, so that the stars of the Pantheon can select the most elite hunters." They have entrusted the Dragon Legion with building the ancient Trial Zone 1, exclusively for the trials here. The most elite soldiers of the Dragon Legion have been mobilized. Right at this moment, the system screen flashed a notification about the time limit, 10 minutes. If you are still breathing when the clock runs out, the reward will be yours. Kronos narrowed his eyes, assessing the dragonkin from head to toe, then dropped a nonchalant remark. "With your scrawny strength, I'm afraid you won't last 10 seconds. Guess I'll have to post a recruitment ad for the next saint soon." His mocking words made Ryoga feel his pride being trampled. He growled furiously in his head. "That's not happening. Even if it belongs to the dragon race, it must have been weakened to fit the 1-star level. However, I guess it won't be an easy piece of meat to chew either." Without needing a signal, the dragonkin stomped its foot straight onto the ground. Even though it was just a light warm-up, the ground shook visibly. Just as the monster was about to lunge forward, Ryoga hurriedly raised his hand to stop it. Wait, let me modify my minions for a bit. Hold on a sec." Usually the villains have to patiently wait for the main character to gear up, right? Having said that, he immediately pumped spiritual power into the plague zombies behind him. The energy source inside them was abruptly enhanced, causing their eyes to bulge with blood-red streaks full of madness. The system screen immediately updated the enhancement progress. Toxic blood corpse, undead modification successful, transformed into plague zombie. When summoning undead, if conditions are met, they will be born under the form of plague zombies, witnessing the astounding transformation of the undead horde. Kronos standing nearby couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. "Oh, improvising on the battlefield." Hearing that, he raised his chin and replied, "After all, before I returned, I was once a renowned savior necromancer." "All done, let's go," he shouted like a declaration of war. The dragonkin on the opposite side immediately took a defensive stance as well. Its face showed clear excitement. It stomped hard on the ground to gain momentum. In less than 3 seconds, the dragonkin shot towards Ryoga with the speed of an arrow. On this side, the plague zombie horde didn't just sit still either. Obeying their master's command, they charged into the enemy in unison. Right above the dragonkin's head, the plague zombie horde formed a living net. They tightened their encirclement, not giving it a single second to regain its senses. The whole group lunged at its body, desperately scratching and tearing. At every bite mark, a stream of pitch-black slime immediately spread out. Feeling the piercing pain tormenting it, the dragonkin hurriedly counterattacked. Seizing the opportunity, It swung its iron fists at the faces of each plague zombie, causing the poison to splatter everywhere. Looking at its hands covered in slimy toxic liquid, the Dragonkin frowned in sheer disgust. The system immediately updated the information. That liquid is a level 12 toxic acid. Ryoga smirked triumphantly as he watched the Dragonkin fall into his trap. He had sacrificed the entire strength stat of the X-Mob, which had naturally doubled when they became zombies, to pour everything into their poison attribute. Though their physical power and agility were drastically reduced, their toxin was now a deadly weapon. Despite being hit by level 12 toxic acid, the Dragonkin's thick skin left it completely unharmed. It let out a deafening roar, unleashing a burst of power that sent the entire horde of plague zombies flying meters away. With their fragile defense, the horde was quickly wiped out. Riding the momentum, the Dragonkin spun around, shifting its target to Ryoga. It let out a feral roar and lunged forward like a starving beast. However, he remained standing there calmly, muttering in admiration. Withstanding toxic acid is truly a formidable feat. As soon as he finished speaking, Ryoga channeled his spiritual energy directly into his dark scepter, causing its stats to skyrocket. The system notified. Through the channeling of psycho-spiritual energy, the defense stat of the Staff of Resentment has been temporarily increased. Right at the moment the Dragonkin's punch was about to hit Ryoga, a protective shield popped up just in time. Even so, he could still feel the terrifying raw power of his opponent. Its strength should have been halved from the poison. How is it still this horrific? After a few minutes of holding out, the temporary shield shattered. An earth-shattering explosion echoed through the space, followed by a blinding flash of light that obscured all vision. The moment it regained its composure, the Dragonkin instantly dashed toward its target like a flying arrow. Seizing the brief moment his opponent dropped its guard, Ryoga immediately cast Bone Art. The Staff of Resentment flew forward with wind-tearing speed, pinning directly into the palm of the Dragonkin and causing fresh blood to splatter everywhere. It shrieked in agony, its entire body paralyzed as if struck by a high-voltage current. "Now is the time," Ryoga shouted. The plague zombies, as if wound up like clockwork, swarmed in and clung tightly to the Dragonkin, tearing off chunks of flesh with all their might. Only then did it manage to snap back to its senses, though the pain was still burning deep within. The toxic acid quickly seeped deep into its body, making the Dragonkin involuntarily shiver violently. Despite that, it still tried to retaliate with an earth-shattering punch straight to the head of a plague zombie. The punch sent their blood splattering. The Dragonkin's razor-sharp claws dug deeply into them one by one. In just a matter of moments, half of the plague zombie horde was annihilated. Witnessing that counterattack, Ryoga's expression didn't change in the slightest. He even thought to himself with amusement, fighting until the very bitter end like this, quite impressive. But it all ends right here. The moment his thought ended, the Dragonkin on the other side instantly collapsed. It fell to its knees on the ground. Its entire body looked as if it had been drained of all life force, entirely losing its ability to fight. At the same time, the spiritual energy inside the Staff of Resentment gradually dissipated. Ryoga swiftly retracted his mana. Then he quietly approached the colossal corpse. Ryoga slowly raised his hands. He immediately cast a spell to absorb all of its life force. The remaining fraction of the Dragonkin's vitality was devoured by him with great relish. Psycho-spiritual energy and holy power are being used to absorb life force. The exact moment the Dragonkin collapsed onto the arena floor, the system screen popped up with a congratulatory message. Ancient Trial Zone 1 has been cleared. Observing the result, Kronos voiced his praise full of amusement, trying to use a bunch of lowly undead to overwhelm. "A Dragonkin," Ryoga quickly interrupted. "See that? I told you I wouldn't die." At this moment the system suddenly announced, "Enduring Mark has been engraved." The Enduring Mark reduces the delay time when taking damage by 40%, while also increasing mana coordination speed by 20%, reducing stun status and enhancing concentration. This was nothing like a blessing from the stars or support magic. This was a permanent buff, a supreme tier mark. This conquest reward made Ryoga let out a sound of sheer satisfaction. Heh, not bad at all. But the true prize was something else entirely. The corpse of a Dragonkin is top-tier material for nurturing an undead. Thinking so, he quickly stored the body into his spatial inventory, leaving Kronos a bit puzzled. "What are you planning to do with that corpse?" Ryoga didn't explain right away but simply gave a vague answer. There's no way I'd waste something like this. I'm going to create an undead that is far stronger than the sum of its parts. Suddenly remembering something, he fell into deep thought again. But to do that, I'll need alchemy equipment. I wonder if that guy has opened his alchemy lab yet at this hour. Snapping out of his thoughts, Ryoga immediately dashed off, heading toward the center without a single moment of hesitation. Following the flow of his memories, he quickly located the research laboratory. Standing there and observing it for a long while, Ryoga couldn't help but feel nostalgic. From before my regression up until now, this place hasn't changed one bit. No sooner had he spoken than an earth-shattering explosion rang out. The building in front of him was instantly engulfed in a sea of flames, its door blown far away. The sudden yet familiar explosion made him helplessly exclaim, "Seems like some things will just never change, huh?" From inside, a tall young man hurriedly ran out, coughing violently as he fled. When they unexpectedly crossed paths, both stood frozen, staring at each other for a moment. Once he recognized who the other person was, the corners of Ryoga's lips curled up in sheer delight. He cheered joyfully in his mind, found him. The man who established the first mass-production formula for intermediate-grade potions in the world, and rose to fame as Japan's #1 alchemist, the Grand Alchemist Shintani Rinea. Without waiting for the other party to speak, Ryoga took the initiative to strike up a conversation. "Hey, are you free right now?" Somewhat taken aback, Rinea asked in confusion. I don't mind, but who are you? This is my private laboratory, you know." He confidently introduced himself. "I am Chanin Ryoga. I came here hoping you'd let me use your alchemy equipment." Hearing this, Rinea was a bit stunned, just staring blankly for a while. Seeing this, Ryoga quickly explained, "You don't have to show your disgust so openly on your face like that. If it were just a simple borrowing arrangement, neither of us would gain anything from it. The intermediate recovery potion, you're currently researching a formula to mass produce it, right?" Having his research secret exposed by Ryoga left Rinea dead silent, completely at a loss for words. "How? How did you know?" Without even waiting for an answer, he casually walked straight inside, not forgetting to drop a line before entering. "I will help you." Rinea jolted in shock, hurriedly asking, What are you trying to do?" A short while later, when everything had settled down, Ryoga had also finished his part of the experiment. Staring at the finished product right before his eyes, Rinea's eyes lit up brightly. He was so moved that he burst into tears. "How on earth did you stabilize a potion that was in total chaos and practically on the verge of exploding? How the hell did you pull that off?" The other party's sequence of excited expressions gave Ryoga a bit of amusement, thinking to himself, "Well, it's natural that you don't understand yet. After all, this is something you wouldn't figure out for another few years." Grasping Rinea's deep curiosity, Ryoga immediately offered, "Wanna test it out?" Receiving a nod, he instantly grabbed the scalpel nearby and slashed a deep gash into his own wrist, much to the sheer shock of the man across from him. Afterward, Ryoga grabbed the test tube containing the freshly brewed liquid and poured it directly onto the wound. A second later, the cut rapidly sealed itself and vanished as if it had never existed. He enthusiastically showed off the result, presenting his perfectly smooth arm right in front of Rinea. Instantly, the man's eyes sparkled brilliantly, his face revealing an extreme level of excitement. Rinea couldn't seem to believe his own eyes, hastily confirming it. "Is it really a success?" Just as his hand was about to touch the test tube, Ryoga snatched it away in the blink of an eye, leaving Rinea's hands hovering awkwardly midair, along with a trace of lingering regret. Holding the test tube up in front of him, Ryoga asked in rapid succession, "Curious about the formula?" Rinea nodded furiously. "Yes, absolutely." Seeing that the other party had taken the bait, he immediately laid out his terms. "If so, would you mind helping me out with a small favor?" Noticing Rinea's bewildered expression, Ryoga thoroughly explained his intentions. "You seem really interested. I originally came here just to borrow some alchemy tools, but I'm going to change the terms. How about this? You come work for me. I'll teach you the potion brewing formula along with countless other techniques. In exchange, we split the profits 60-40. Naturally, I take the 40." Looking at his barrage of suppressed expressions, he couldn't hold back his smugness, thinking to himself, "Consider him completely trapped in my net." The room fell completely silent. Rinea strained his eyes to stare at the miraculous potion in front of him as if trying to find a reason to refuse, but everything was already within Ryoga's calculations. From now on, You'll be my servant, no, my partner. A moment later, the dark ring on his finger suddenly twitched. A surge of spiritual energy burst out from within, revealing the lifeless corpse of the dragonkin. Momentarily startled, Rania asked in astonishment, "What is that?" Ryoga answered calmly, "I am a summoner, so I'm turning it into a special corpse. If you're that curious, then stop peeking and come over here to lend a hand." His incredibly natural commanding tone made Rania suddenly flare up, shouting in protest, "Why should I help? We haven't even signed any damn contract yet. I'm just temporarily letting you borrow this place while I think it over." Seeing this, Ryoga simply chuckled, nodding in agreement. Yeah. Watching Rania's hesitant demeanor, Kronos couldn't help but feel annoyed and dropped a comment. "He's acting so restless, I really just want to tell him to toughen up a bit." Ryoga immediately explained, "It's understandable enough if you look at what he's been through. He once achieved extraordinary feats back when he was a researcher for Daisy, the largest corporation in the country, but his boss stole all the credit. After that incident, he was even forced to resign, so it's no surprise that he doesn't trust anyone anymore." Hearing this, Kronos felt a bit of sympathy but didn't forget to complain. "Honestly, the human world is just full of betrayal and greed." Seeing this, Ryoga casually replied, "The gods are no different anyway." Then he turned to Rania, asking softly, "You're hesitating to sign because you still don't fully know my capabilities, right? If that's the case, why not lend me a hand so you can verify it yourself?" Hearing these words, Rania paused for a moment. His mind began to waver. After a short while, Rania finally gave in and compromised. He said softly, "All right then." Getting down to work, Ryoga carefully measured every single ingredient. First, melt 5 F-rank magic stones at a 42% ratio. Just a few seconds later, the finished product was brought over by Rania. The working speed made him feel undeniably satisfied, thinking to himself, "Oh, that's fast. He really is the most suitable person for this job." At this point, Rania couldn't suppress his curiosity, asking quietly, "By the way, what are you planning to do with that corpse?" Ryoga didn't rush to answer, solely focusing on concocting the solution. Using the Shintani solution we just created as a catalyst. Engraving the formulas onto the bones, and infusing them with curses to enhance the undead's combat capabilities. The layers of formulas and curses must be continuously stacked on top of one another. That process was repeated over and over. Continuously, relentlessly, finally after a period of diligent brewing. Along with Rania's bustling assistance, the process of enhancing the dragonkin's corpse was officially completed. Ryoga exclaimed with satisfaction, "Faster than I thought, it only took 3 days after all." On the contrary, Rania on the other side was completely exhausted. He snapped back sullenly, "It took 3 whole days, damn it." Looking at the extraordinary person in front of him, Rania thought to himself in horror, just who exactly is this guy? I can't believe a 1-star hunter could use mana to restart the heart of a corpse. His methods are utterly insane, but his skills are the absolute real deal. After thinking things through for a while, Rania suddenly spoke up. 60-40, I accept your proposal." Ryoga was a bit surprised. "Are you sure?" he replied without hesitation. "Absolutely. If I were alone, it would take me up to 2 years to complete the intermediate recovery potion. But with you, it's different. If this helps my research, I'm in." Hearing the other party's acknowledgement, the corners of his lips involuntarily curled up in pure satisfaction. Stepping closer, Ryoga stated firmly, "In that case, I look forward to working with you as my exclusive alchemist. Oh wait, my servant." Rania answered confidently, "Yes." Even though he still harbored a bit of wariness in his heart, he felt as if he had just been completely read. Wrapping up the deal, Ryoga carefully calculated his next steps. The only thing left is to find a soul to serve as the core for the dragonkin. Thinking up to this point, he immediately pulled out his phone and dialed a string of numbers. After a long ringtone, the other end of the line finally picked up. Ryoga quickly said, "Hey, I got the money. I didn't expect you to transfer even the last few odd pennies, so you want to take on another job." At the same time, near the boundary zone, the rookie group had fully gathered following Ryoga's summons. Yuma eagerly asked aloud, "Did you call for us?" Observing the space ahead of him, he gave his instructions. "Follow me. You guys can drop that combat-ready stance now." The blunt criticism made the whole group a bit embarrassed. "Yes," trailing closely behind Ryoga, Yuma curiously asked. "But still, why come to such a dangerous place? Ever since the North Gate was destroyed, this place should be swarming with monsters. But he only left behind a cryptic answer. I just want to visit an old acquaintance. Saying that, Ryoga focused on searching the surroundings. It should be somewhere around here, right? Sensing the unusual atmosphere, the entire rookie group immediately raised their guard. On the opposite side, a gigantic foot abruptly appeared. The thunderous noise caused the whole group to simultaneously turn their eyes in that direction. Recognizing the monster in front of them, the rookie group screamed out loud, their eyes showing clear panic. That's a 2-star Orse, that highly dangerous monster. Their panicked expressions made Ryoga chuckle to himself. He still has no confidence in his own strength, huh? Guess I'll take this chance to test out those treated bones. Thinking this, he immediately pulled out the processed hound bone, a masterpiece created by crafting spirit-possessed bones into a magical artifact, without a single ounce of hesitation. Ryoga boldly chanted his spell, Bone Art. The hound bone in his hand unexpectedly shot forward. It bolted rapidly toward the 2-star Orse, making it instinctively raise its guard. Right after that, it hoisted its spear high into the air, aggressively hurtling it straight at Ryoga. The spearhead sliced through the wind, soaring at breakneck speed. Facing the ferocious attack of the 2-star Orse, he didn't flinch at all, even audaciously clicking his tongue. So that's how it is. Tough luck for you. As his words faded, Ryoga gave a light wave of his hand. Swinging the hound bone forward, it perfectly deflected the spearhead to the side, then dashed straight toward the 2-star Orse, plunging right into its shoulder and causing blood to splatter. Ryoga gave a faint smirk. I was aiming for the heart, you're tougher than I thought. Struggling against the pain, the 2-star Orse used every ounce of its strength to tightly grip the bone and forcefully yank it out. It furiously tossed the bone aside, ignoring the wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Like a provoked wild beast, the 2-star Orse let out a roar before charging madly at Ryoga. The system screen popped up with a warning. The battle continues. It clenched its hand into a fist, then frantically swung it forward in a blind rage. A resounding explosion echoed, covering all vision. Hidden behind the smoke, Yuma suddenly charged out, using his magic shield to cleanly block the opponent's attack. This made him involuntarily blurt out a compliment. Perfect timing. Ryoga immediately shifted into a combat stance, his eyes flashing with a cold, murderous intent. Without wasting words, he continuously launched the enhanced bones to counterattack. How about 3 at once? Bone Art. Just like that, one bone after another zoomed forward, leaving the 2-star Orse standing there utterly dumbfounded. Dull, thud sounds rang out amidst the quiet space, intertwined with the agonizing screams of the Orse. In less than 60 seconds, the lethal poison had seeped deep into its marrow, causing its entire body to collapse backward. It couldn't even let out a dying breath. Witnessing the whole scene, Yuma exclaimed in disbelief, Good Lord, did you just effortlessly take down a 2-star Orse? Ryoga instantly tightened his guard, issuing a command. Hey, don't just stand there dazed. Let's keep moving, now is the time to get to the main event. Hearing that, the guy was taken aback. Wait a minute, I thought you said we were just coming here to pay respects. Are you sure we're even going the right way? While maintaining his spell, he answered curtly, Nope. And so, after a mere 3 minutes, a 1-star undead was revived from the corpse of the 2-star Orse. It stood obediently behind Ryoga, awaiting its orders. Facing the bewildered gazes of the rookies, he raised his voice. The village of the Orse is right over there. Then Ryoga slightly turned his head, his voice dropping an octave. Moreover, we can score a massive payday there. Tempting, isn't it? Are you guys coming or not? Faced with his half-joking, half-threatening attitude, the group had no choice but to meekly tag along. The moment they set foot into the Orse village, the atmosphere was thick with a chillingly macabre aura. A dull thump rang out, and then one Orse after another silently collapsed to the ground, as if swept away by an invisible force. Ryoga stood there, his apathetic eyes watching the Orses drop like flies, while his strength and stamina stats skyrocketed endlessly. Upon reaching the limit, the system panel immediately popped up a notification. You have leveled up to level 13. You have exceeded the threshold of stats that can be absorbed from a single race. You can no longer absorb additional stats from this race. Looking at the limit notification, Ryoga's mood sank a little. He muttered under his breath, Tusk, it would be weirder if it were actually infinite. Ryoga looked up at the blazing red sunset in the distance, then suddenly spoke. Maybe stopping here for today is fine. So let's set up camp. Before he could even finish his sentence, the rookies opposite him had already pitched the tents who knows when, and were even gathering around a campfire. Seeing them carelessly munching on grilled meat with blissfully happy expressions, Ryoga smirked faintly, tossing out a nonchalant compliment. Well prepared. Hearing that, Ehara immediately chimed in cheerfully. Well, it's our third day already after all. While snacking on his dinner, Ryoga announced, my stats have increased significantly. Tomorrow we will assault the village. The three fresh recruits instantly said in unison, Roger that, sure thing, orders received. A short while later, when it was time to rest, the whole group appeared rather excited. Ehara grinned from ear to ear, counting on you guys again for tonight. Iuka next to him also waved cheerfully, see you tomorrow. And just like that, the undead army obediently took turns standing guard for the group all night long. Because they were utterly exhausted from the day, less than 5 minutes later, all three of them were already dead to the world. At the same time, on a nearby cliff, Ryoga was deep in thought all alone, gazing at the moon. He carefully considered, my level has gone up, maybe it's time to look through the newly unlocked knowledge. Thinking so, Ryoga immediately accessed the library. The screen instantly displayed a notification, accessing the Library of Knowledge. You may consult the knowledge left behind by the previous Lord of Death. Standing before the colossal treasury of books, Ryoga couldn't suppress his excitement, immediately grabbing the nearest book. He guessed he wouldn't be able to read it yet due to his rank limit, and right as expected, the moment he flipped to the first page, the system shrieked out a warning. You do not have the authority to access this knowledge. Requires level 45 or higher. With his current level, Ryoga was blocked from accessing any of the books on advanced summoning arts, forcing him to bitterly skim through titles meant for absolute beginners. This restriction made him inevitably frustrated as he cursed under his breath. Damn it, I've already reached 9 stars and I still have to read manuals for 1-star scrubs. Sigh, guess I still have to give it a look anyway. And with that, Ryoga casually pulled out a low-level summoner book to study. He meticulously devoured every single line, every single word, as if terrified of missing out on some core detail. Suddenly, Ryoga froze, his eyes lighting up as they locked onto the page. It was a congratulatory notification from the system. You have learned a new skill. Time flew by until the next morning. As the first rays of sunlight broke through, Rookie Ehara was still sleeping like a log. Seeing this, Yuma shook him awake. Rise and shine, it's morning already. Suddenly, a giant shadow loomed over him, blocking out the light. Ehara groggily opened his eyes, only to be greeted by a massive, ferocious-looking zombie glaring down at him, as if it were about to eat him alive. Ehara jolted up in sheer panic, instinctively scrambling backward in terror. Seeing this, Ryoga chimed in, You see it every day, do you really need to overreact like that? The boy immediately defended himself, but it looks completely different from yesterday. Not only does it have bone armor, but isn't it also bigger? Impressed by Ehara's keen observation, he gave an approving smile. Yeah, I gave them a little upgrade. Now the entire Undead Legion sported a brand new look after Ryoga's enhancement the previous night. Armored zombie, race, undead level, traits, a zombie possessing extraordinary strength, encased in bone armor with superior attack power and durability. Bone armor transforms bones into armor, writhing flesh, grants the ability to control the flesh on a corpse. Once the preparations were complete, Ryoga stretched his legs and urged, It's time to head to the Orse village. Without a moment's hesitation, the group and the undead army immediately set off. They marched straight toward the distant village, their faces burning with determination. After a long journey, the Orse settlement finally appeared before their eyes. Spotting the intruders, an Orse immediately shrieked in alarm, enemies. At the signal, the entire Orse pack swarmed out, forming a living wall to block the entrance. Not giving them a chance to strike, Ryoga took the initiative and cast bone magic. A bone spear shot forward, piercing straight through the sturdy shield of a 2-star Orse. A deafening boom shook the earth as the terrifying power of bone magic blew the entire group backward. He quickly retrieved the bone, sweeping a cold gaze over them before dropping a blunt command, Stop making so much noise. The area suddenly fell dead silent. The Orse pack stood frozen, trying to process Ryoga's arrogant declaration of war. Unable to contain its rage, the Alpha Orse let out a savage roar, its entire body exuding a thick, suffocating bloodlust. It was their turn to counterattack. A volley of bows was drawn in unison, aimed straight at Ryoga's group. On command, pitch-black arrows were fired relentlessly, forming a deadly rain. The arrows shrieked through the wind, but the rookies were no pushovers. Yuma swiftly raised his shield, while Yuka and Ehara swung their swords, deflecting arrow after arrow. Noticing the rain of arrows subsiding, Yuka seized the chance to counterattack. She shouted, "Fire arrow!" With those words, the crossbow in her hands flared with power. A barrage of flaming arrows was unleashed, engulfing the Orse pack in front of them. The arrows whizzed through the air, burying themselves deep into the chests of the Orse, leaving them no time to react. Kronos suddenly appeared, whispering into Ryoga's ear, "Not bad, quite useful actually." He simply crossed his arms, looking at the rookies with a satisfied gaze. "Right, from now on they'll go even further." Following the recent casualties, the Orse immediately retaliated. The Alpha roared, "Charge!" On this side, Ryoga nonchalantly dropped a single word, "Go." The bloodthirsty armored zombie charged into battle, throwing a devastating punch straight into its opponent's face. Terrifying power erupted, sending the group of Orse flying several meters away. Looking at the spectacular results before him, Ryoga couldn't hide his satisfaction. "The outcome is even better than I thought. It seems burying my head in those books at the Library of Knowledge last night wasn't a waste after all." They are absolutely terrified. But this is just the warm-up. The more they fought, the more vicious the armored zombies became. They simultaneously encircled the Orse, driving them into a corner before slaughtering them one by one. Despite their overwhelming strength, the sheer difference in numbers was too great. An Orse's axe chopped heavily into an armored zombie, severely damaging its bone armor. The system immediately alerted, "The armored zombie's armor has been damaged. Durability decreased. Defense decreased by 15%. Sensing the disadvantage, Ryoga quickly reinforced the formation. He shouted, "Bone armor." Instantly, the shattered armor was restored. The armored zombie's armor has been repaired. Durability plus 20%. Feeling it still wasn't dominating enough, Ryoga proceeded to use the Writhing Flesh ability. The moment they were summoned, chunks of raw flesh lunged forward, clinging tightly to the Orse. They convulsed and twitched, secreting a toxin that made the Orse scream in agony. Witnessing the scene, Yuma couldn't help but gasp in awe. He's using the zombie's own flesh to incapacitate the Orse. This guy isn't just purely strong. The way he utilizes his skills is truly on a whole other level. Back on the battlefield, an Orse staggered forward. On the ground, those who couldn't withstand the toxin had already begun to pass out. Only the leader was still bracing itself, and when it could endure no more, it erupted in a fit of rage. Its pale white eyes gradually turned blood red. Its body seemed to inflate, muscles bulging, as a ghostly bloodlust radiated from its entire being. A series of warnings popped up on the system screen. Berserk state activated. Warning, evolving into a special variant. Danger level. Looking at the monster's ferocious aura, Ryoga wasn't afraid in the slightest. Instead, he looked thrilled. "Heh, it finally showed up. I've been waiting forever." The monster let out an earth-shattering roar. Then it swung its giant axe, aiming straight at Ryoga. Seeing this, he merely smirked. Bone magic. From Ryoga's fingertips, a volley of bone spikes was fired. They relentlessly embedded themselves straight into the monster's body. Specifically, one bone spike hit its vital spot. That strike forced the giant monster to its knees. It screamed in pain, desperately trying to pull the bone spike out of its body. Unfortunately, Ryoga had no intention of letting it have its way. Hey, I never gave you permission." System notification, mana minus 25%, continuous drain effect activated. Following that, the bone spike drilled even deeper into the monster's flesh. He didn't even forget to throw a taunt in its face. "Take comfort, you're not the only one about to die anyway. Stop being so melodramatic." At the same time, the system chimed again. Continuous drain effect activated. Mana minus 40%. Honestly, Ryoga's mind was stretched taut like a bowstring right now. Controlling 6 bone spikes at once consumes an insane amount of mana. But if even one falls out, it will move again. I need to pierce its heart in a single blow. Putting thought to action, he poured all his strength into executing the skill. Ryoga's depletion was growing greater by the second. Continuous drain effect activated. Mana percent. The trade-off was the agonizing shriek of the monster. After a bout of thrashing, it was finally killed. Ryoga panted heavily, looking at the giant corpse with a contemplative gaze. He reached his hand toward it, activate life absorption. A powerful surge of energy was drawn into Ryoga. Mana recovering, 74%. A moment later, he looked quite satisfied with the amount of mana restored. Suddenly, there was a noise behind Ryoga. The remaining Ors were frantically scrambling to escape. You think I'd let you slip away that easily? The very next second, Ryoga cast the writhing flesh skill. Just like that, they collapsed one by one. The Ors could now only lie there helplessly, waiting for death. And the one dealing the finishing blow was the very corpse of their leader, now under his control. The bright red of blood steadily spread everywhere. Dusk slowly fell. The sky was dyed a vibrant orange. The battlefield was now left with nothing but the scattered corpses of the Ors. Ehara's group was dazzled by the pile of dropped items. This must be worth an absolute fortune. But Ryoga barely cared about the pile, he said. This is what's truly valuable. The system quickly displayed the information. Blood axe, rank rare, type axe, requirement none, durability 666. An axe forged from refined blood, enchanted with magic to amplify the user's strength. The more blood it absorbs, the more its power increases. After reading it, he was even more satisfied with his new weapon. Wiping out this Ors village was definitely worth the effort. Then Ryoga handed it over to Yuma. I'll leave this to you. Take good care of the loot we gathered. Yuma took it and replied firmly, got it, we'll collect all the mana stones, you just get some rest. Ryoga answered as he turned away, yeah, I'm counting on you. A while later, Ryoga arrived at his destination. Before him stood a colossal tree trunk. Found it. Ryoga looked up, speaking with a serious tone, hey, come on out, let's have a little chat. However, the withered tree remained dead silent, without a single response. That made him let out a heavy sigh. Then a spark flickered in Ryoga's eyes as his hand tightened its grip on a bone. If it's come to this. He quickly shifted into a combat stance. Without a hint of hesitation, Ryoga swung fiercely at the tree. He casually watched its transformation and thought, whether it's a spirit or a wraith, do I really have to be so heavy-handed with everyone? And just as expected, a creature was hidden inside the trunk. Who are you? Ryoga smirked, raising his voice in a cheerful greeting. It is an absolute honor to meet you. He clearly already knew the identity of that shadow, Sora Kashiwagi, the magic fighter. The man instantly interrogated, how do you know my name? Ryoga casually offered his praise. Why wouldn't I? You are the hero who held the front line 30 years ago to stop the monster wave from spilling over to the south. At the same time, Ryoga thought to himself, before my regression, I was the one who turned him into an undead, and we fought shoulder to shoulder. So how could I ever forget you? Not only that, he added. Japan was able to survive until today thanks to warriors like you. Even now, there are memorials erected so that people will never forget that day. It's a legend passed down to this day. A renowned powerhouse on the front line during the early days of the Great Calamity. Sora Kasugai, he rose to fame through the unique abilities of a magic fighter, possessing talent in both martial arts and magic. Kashiwagi seemed pleased to hear these words. So it turns out my death wasn't entirely meaningless. Suddenly, Ryoga's voice deepened. Of course, even though not every name is remembered by the world. Hearing that, his attitude instantly changed. What is that supposed to mean? Out of nowhere, a question from him left Kashiwagi stunned. Do you remember Naruhito Bizarugal, the Vice Guild Master of the Aragiri Guild? In the past, a massive fire had scorched the entire forest. Kashiwagi had been screaming repeatedly into the radio back then, requesting backup, requesting backup. He reported frantically, there are still civilians trapped in the southern agricultural zone. Kasugai hurriedly called out the name, Bizarugal, Naruhito Bizarugal. His comrade could no longer hold on by this point. Damn it, I can't hold out any longer. Send backup right now. A robotic voice echoed from the radio. There are no reserve forces, unable to send reinforcements. Kashiwagi went silent, his eyes staring blankly at the radio. Then he relentlessly questioned, you planned to use us as bait from the very beginning, didn't you? You lied that the South was safe to push us out here, just so you lot could comfortably escape through the North Gate, right? But the response from the other end of the line was a scoff. Thanks to you guys, we bought enough time to assemble the main forces. We were able to retreat through the North Gate without a single hitch. The more he heard, the colder Kashiwaga's voice became. You pushed us out here even knowing full well there were still civilians left. Because you knew we would never abandon them, is that it? The other voice spoke slowly. Don't be so pessimistic. Then it continued. Thanks to this, Aragiri will be honored as the heroes who stopped the monster wave. Of course, that glory is reserved only for those who survive. Kashiwagi couldn't bear to listen any longer. If you live, you're a hero. If you die, it's just the end. Meanwhile, the civilians were struggling against the monsters. Fortunately, they were rescued just in time. A zombie was knocked flying far away. Kashiwagi turned around, loudly ordering the other soldiers, protect the civilians, evacuate this area. His comrade was shocked, but at this point he no longer cared about anything else. Hurry up, that's an order. As the flashback ended, Ryoga's steady voice rang out. Bizarugal, the man who pushed you to your death, ended up becoming a hero. He calmly exposed the truth. Meanwhile, all records regarding you were completely erased. Then Ryoga feigned regret. What a tragedy. You were the one who sacrificed yourself, yet someone else reaped all the glory. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to rest in peace. If it were me, I'd rather rise from the grave just to collect this blood debt. Those words infuriated Kashiwagi and he growled, Enough, what is your goal? His outrage only made Ryoga smile. He unexpectedly made an offer that made Kashiwagi pause. I will help you get your revenge. Ryoga asked mischievously, How do you feel about forming a pact with me and becoming an undead? Right after, the ring on Ryoga's finger glowed. He quickly pulled out an object. I've already prepared a body for your soul to inhabit. Kashiwagi remained silent, staring intently at the corpse. Then he slowly spoke up. In this state, the flame of vengeance inside me has never once died out. Kashiwagi had no reason to refuse, but I have one condition, do as you wish. He stated his sole demand, but I will not harm the innocent. These words filled Ryoga with nostalgia. He gave the exact same condition as before my regression. His true nature really hasn't changed at all. A deep sense of respect welled up in his heart for this soul, a true hero. Ryoga looked straight into his eyes and declared firmly, Understood, I promise. Seeing this, Kashiwagi consented, Very well, I shall become your undead. The mysterious black aura around him gradually turned red. Then it shifted into a pure white. You have acquired ownership of the chained soul, Kasugai Sara. Ryoga suddenly recalled his past life. Before my reincarnation, I had Kashiwagi possess a skeleton knight, and nurtured him into an unparalleled Hell Knight. Even then, I sometimes wondered if I had given Kashiwagi a stronger body right from the start, what would have happened? Snapping back to reality, Kronos' voice rang out, overflowing with satisfaction, truly a masterpiece. He slowly familiarized himself with every fiber of flesh in the new body. Ah, so that's how it is. This is why you reinforced this corpse beforehand. Did you calculate things this deeply? A detailed information panel appeared. Mystic Ancient Dragon Incomplete, Kaswajira. Race Undead. Rank 4 stars. Stats are as follows. Strength 205, Magic 221, Agility 143, Stamina 176, Endurance 180. Innate Talents. Magic Fighter Unique. God-Slaying IS. Immortal Entity B. Limit Breaker B. Skills. Keck Tactics A. Dark Battle Aura B. Martial Arts C. Dark Magic Arrow D. Special note. This immortal entity is capable of evolving alongside the growth of its soul, promising to unlock latent powers hidden within the body. Ryoga skimmed through the barrage of stats, a feeling of ecstasy spreading through his body. Absolutely perfect. These innate talents were things he had never possessed in his previous life. Especially the unique skill Magic Fighter, one who carries the traits of both a warrior and a mage. An increase in stats will bring about the growth of spirit. When the spirit levels up, another random stat is also enhanced. The wielder can comprehend and execute skills from both classes without encountering any obstacles. He skimmed through it and instantly understood. So the Magic Fighter talent was inherited as well, huh? In a split second, Ryoga's expression turned stone cold as he asked, How does the new body feel? Kashiwagi gently moved his joints and gave his assessment. Not bad, though it is still a step below my prime. The system quickly updated his new identity. Undead creation Mystic Ancient Dragon Incomplete. Ryoga muttered that line to himself. So it's considered incomplete because I only reconstructed the concept of an ancient dragon through curse formulas. Nevertheless, he still felt immensely satisfied with the current result. This is a starting point that far exceeds expectations compared to the last time, and that's more than enough. A moment later, Ryoga turned around, intending to leave. "Let's go." He casually called out to Kashiwagi, "Let's go, minion." That term of address bruised his ego, making him plant his feet on the spot, refusing to budge. Seeing the figure standing still, Ryoga turned back to ask, "Is there a problem?" Kashiwagi only then voiced his grievance. "Personally, I find the title minion entirely unpleasant to the ears." Noticing this, he immediately asked, "So you want me to call you by your real name?" But Kashiwagi bluntly brushed it off. "I discarded that name a long time ago." Ryoga frowned, dropping a complaint. "You really are a handful, you know that." He silently evaluated in his head. He used to be much calmer in the past. Could it be that his personality got altered too? Completely oblivious to his thoughts, Kashiwagi casually replied, "I want a name that strikes terror into the hearts of others just by hearing it, but I haven't been able to think of a fitting title yet." Hearing that, Ryoga suggested, "How about Fafnir, the dragon from Norse mythology?" The old man immediately looked annoyed. "Don't joke around with me like that." He then came up with another name, Black Dragon, Kashiwagi criticized. "Too generic." Ryoga irritably snapped another name, Tiamat. He furiously shook his head again. "That's going way overboard." Finally, his anger exploded and he snapped, "Then let's call you Giant Serpent." And once again, Kashiwagi dropped his familiar refusal. The irritation in Ryoga's heart had reached its peak. Should I just give this old geezer a punch? Eventually, after a bit of haggling, he finally conceded. On second thought, the first name sounded the best, Fafnir. This decision took a load off his mind. "All right, Fafnir, hurry up." Suddenly, Kashiwagi let out a panicked shriek, his voice cracking in horror. "Wait a minute, hey boy, I'm stark naked." Seeing no one reply, he had no choice but to dart his eyes around in search. Kashiwagi's gaze quickly landed on a tarp covering a collapsed tent, and he snatched it up. After that, Kashiwagi hastily wrapped the fabric around his body. Feeling much better, he confidently puffed out his chest, taking long, proud strides. "We can go now." Witnessing that entire sequence of bizarre actions, a giant question mark popped up in Ryoga's head. Is this what his true nature is really like? As night gradually fell, a scream of astonishment echoed throughout the house. "Huh, what the hell is that?" Renia pointed, his voice full of excitement. "The corpse in the fluid tank is twitching." Ryoga quickly explained, "I found a compatible soul for it." But those words fell completely on deaf ears for Renia. "Amazing, unbelievable, I absolutely have to research this." Kashiwagi couldn't tolerate that excessive fanaticism and asked quietly, "He's an eyesore, can I punch him just once?" Ryoga coldly refused. "No, he's my partner." Suddenly, someone called out the name Ryoga Chinen. His close familiars reported their plans. "We intend to head back to Tokyo for a bit to pack up our belongings." He didn't have much to say about it. "All right, I understand." A moment later, Ryoga raised his hand and a ring was summoned. From within the ring, the corpse of the monster he had defeated appeared. Ryoga crouched down, beginning to evaluate his loot. "Let's see, what should I craft from the corpse of this Orse boss?" Seeing this, Renia also sat down beside him, asking curiously, "What's next?" Hearing the question, he smirked, his voice full of hidden meaning, "Curious." That smile gave Renia a bad feeling. He quickly waved his hands frantically. "Not really, not at all. Mixing herbs last time almost made my arms fall off." But how could Renia escape his fate as a lackey? "Damn it, I just can't control my curiosity." He could only follow the instructions obediently while thinking to himself, "He always exceeds my expectations. No wonder I can't help but be curious." Back to Ryoga, he was dissecting the corpse as the separation process began. The monster's body gradually disintegrated into pieces. Kronos suddenly appeared, wondering aloud. "Oh, planning to create more undead," Ryoga replied in his mind. "You can never have enough firepower." The system displayed a notification. "Separation process complete. Skeleton completion rate is high. All stats increased by 100%. He reached his hand back, signaling, "Extract." Renia immediately passed him a vial. "Ah, right here." As soon as the drop fell, the system's voice rang out again. "Stable quality is affecting the skeleton's shaping process. The skeleton's attributes have been specialized for defense." Hearing the notification, Ryoga felt quite intrigued. Oh, using it as a bodyguard isn't bad at all. Just a moment later, the skeleton was able to stand up on its own. The mechanical system listed the information: Skeleton Guard, Class Undead, Rank 2 stars. He stood facing the skeleton guard, instructing, From now on, whenever I cast the life absorption skill, you must protect me carefully. Understood? It immediately nodded, making Ryoga satisfied. Excellent, keep it up. At this time, Rania finally had a chance to observe it closely. Why is it a skeleton this time? He modestly explained. Bones have many advantages. They are light and never decompose even without treatment. But Ryoga's true nature was still that of a cold-blooded capitalist. Unlike zombies that have an expiration date, as long as he continuously supplies souls, these skeletons can work until they die. Life absorption is a melee skill, so I need a bodyguard whenever I use it. That profound calculation of Ryoga made Rania secretly admire him. He didn't just simply create a skeleton, but also considered maintaining it in the long term. Geez, the more I look, the more interesting he gets. Afterwards, Ryoga handed the skeleton guard over to Rania. Shintani, I have somewhere to be for a bit. I'll leave it in your care. Rania asked back in confusion. Where are you going at this hour? Ryoga casually revealed. To the Pantheon. I just received a notification to go receive a divine art for leveling up. The other guy's face immediately froze. A moment later, Rania's brain rebooted. What? Divine art? Hold on, what do you mean by that? He couldn't wrap his head around it. Are you a priest? And Ryoga showed absolutely no expression at Rania's mind-blown reaction. He sighed, calmly replying, Actually, I'm quite a devout believer. Rania grabbed his head and screamed, vehemently denying it. No way, absolutely not. That's impossible, even if the world turns upside down. Seeing his friend's stubbornness, Ryoga helplessly thought, but it's the truth. Then he asked seriously, have you finished registering the patent for the mid-grade potion? Rania nodded firmly. Yeah, we can start the review process soon. Ryoga nodded in praise. That was fast. Rania also replied excitedly. The longer we wait, the more competitors there will be. I'm not the type to procrastinate. He frowned, a thoughtful look on his face. The only problem is the promotion phase. There won't be an exhibition until next year. Hearing that, Ryoga decided decisively. Then give me a few vials. If there's a chance, I'll help you advertise. Rania didn't hesitate, immediately taking out a potion vial and handing it to him. I'm counting on you. Ryoga held the potion in his hand, looking extremely smug. If this succeeds, we will rake in a massive profit. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but let out a delighted laugh. In the end, money is still what makes the world go round. Witnessing that sinister smile, Rania frowned and wondered, is he really a priest? Somewhere else, the temple had suddenly appeared after the great cataclysm. Most of the people coming here gathered to receive divine skills and blessings from the stars. As soon as Ryoga stepped foot inside, sensing Kronos beside him, he dropped a remark, a place reeking of worldly desires. Ryoga pondered as he strolled along. The most worldly ones were the stars themselves, entities that constantly demanded offerings from their believers. At this moment, standing in front of an ancient building, Kronos looked around and commented, However, I don't sense any divine aura from these relics. Ryoga wondered inwardly, why would people leave something so valuable lying around on the ground? Exhausted, he panted heavily. Ryoga dragged his heavy footsteps, complaining aloud, Damn it, is there really not a single escalator or elevator here? He craned his neck to look at the top of the distant tower, his tone sarcastic. They probably want to test the sincerity of the believers before granting an audience with the gods. 108 steps to reach the gods, still a long way to go. Hearing this, Kronos exclaimed, How harsh! Ryoga replied while panting, I don't think I'll get struck by lightning just for complaining a little, right? He rested for a moment, then asked, How much further? Kronos glanced around and replied, Just a little more. We will arrive if we walk a distance exactly equal to what we just covered. Hearing this, Ryoga whined as he climbed. Meaning we're only halfway there. Kronos nodded in agreement. You could say that. Ryoga kept walking amidst his heavy panting. If I have to go through all this trouble for nothing, there's definitely going to be hell to pay. Soon, the full moon had risen to its peak. Ryoga was still diligently conquering the endless stairs. After an arduous journey, Ryoga finally stepped into a special room. He looked up at the ceiling, seemingly calculating something. The system gradually displayed a notification about Kier, the wealthy. Seeing this, Kronos burst into laughter. This is absolutely ridiculous. He frowned and reminded, Could you keep quiet for a moment? Kronos suddenly frowned, his expression turning solemn. Well then, I guess it's my turn. Right after that, he seemed to be channeling his power. His finger gently tapped a spot in midair. At the same time, the system displayed a notification. Registration successful. Next, the system displayed the list of divine arts he received. First was the unholy blessing, followed by the one regarding punishment. After everything appeared, Kronos looked at him and laughed. "How is it? A gift I specially bestowed upon you." Ryoga nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Not bad." Receiving his nod, Kronos immediately laughed arrogantly. "This is my greatness." Right at that moment, another notification from the system appeared. After reading the categories provided by the system, Ryoga looked at him and sneered. "It says, ineffective." Kronos cursed angrily under his breath. "What kind of garbage system is this?" Despite that, Ryoga smirked with profound meaning. "But that doesn't change the fact that I've gotten stronger." Time quietly passed by. The pitch-black night sky suddenly flashed with a strange light. At this time, Ryoga was wandering alone on the street. His face was emotionless, without a single ripple. Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind. "Hey, why did you walk out of the temple?" The man in front of him, Sadek Shidru, looked at him with a sinister smile. "Long time no see, huh?" Ryoga frowned, looking annoyed. "Who is it?" Sadek sneered disdainfully. "I took care of you at the orphanage all that time, don't you remember? It's me, Sadek." He rolled his eyes away, coldly replying, "Oh, that piece of trash who always bullied others. Don't talk to me as if we're close." Going back in time to long ago, Sadek once assaulted a boy in the same dorm. He punched and kicked while cursing. "Hey, you little brat, you snitched to the director, didn't you?" Right at that moment, Ryoga appeared and gave him a punch to remember. Recalling that punch, he suddenly burst into laughter. "Has your nose fully healed after I smashed it?" Hearing the insult, Sadek gritted his teeth in anger. "You bastard." After that, he tried to restrain himself, running a hand through his hair looking smug. "I almost lost my cool." Sadek deliberately showed off the badge on his chest. "Look at this and recognize it." The badge flashed a blinding light. Sadek arrogantly explained, "I've joined the Aragiri Guild." He let out a sarcastic laugh and warned, "If you also came to the temple, it means you're just a lowly hunter too, right? Don't delude yourself into thinking things will be like before." Facing the firm threat, Ryoga remained completely indifferent. "To me, it seems like nothing has changed at all." Seeing him unfazed, Sadek growled angrily, "You." He clenched his fist, lunging forward and roaring, "Don't act so high and mighty with me." However, an arm was faster, grabbing his wrist. It was Jamin, captain of the 7th Attack Squad of the Aragiri Guild. He gripped Sadek's arm tightly, warning, "Stop, we are in the middle of the city." Being stopped, Sadek was furious. "Jamin, but this guy." Before he could finish his sentence, Jamin turned to Ryoga and suggested, "How about we change locations and have an official match?" As soon as he spoke, a thought popped into his head. He knows we're from Aragiri yet still dares to pick a fight. What an arrogant brat. Sadek was dumbfounded, astonished. "Huh, with this guy?" Jamin nodded to confirm. "Yes, you two already know each other, so why not let your fists do the talking?" Hearing this, Sadek suddenly laughed in delight. No, you must be joking. This guy only became a hunter recently." As soon as he finished speaking, Ryoga on this side agreed without hesitation. "Sure." Seeing him accept without any hesitation, Sadek was completely stunned. "Huh." Hearing that somewhat timid tone, Ryoga mocked, "What's wrong, scared?" Just that one sentence was enough to make Sadek go crazy. "You won't get a chance to take those words back, you bastard." Soon enough, they arrived at a training facility, affiliated with the Aragiri Guild. Ryoga and Sadek stood facing each other in the arena. Ryoga suddenly took a step back and said, "I am a priest, so you will fight my representative." Hearing that, Sadek pulled out a mana necklace and scoffed. Well, looks like you got yourself a pretty nice toy too, planning to summon a familiar." Saying that, he narrowed his eyes and sneered, "But having a few more trash items won't help you at all." Right after that, the system notification was activated. Sadek smirked slightly. The system is measuring the stats. Ryoga frowned, seemingly expectant. The protection system will automatically activate if there's an incident. And the match officially began. As soon as the battle kicked off, Sadek started taunting. "What's wrong, scared already?" Ryoga raised a hand to pick his ear, thinking to himself, "What is he blabbering about?" The Dragonoid slowly stepped out, speaking up. "I didn't expect to encounter Aragiri in this situation." It sighed softly, then said with determination, "Might as well test out how strong this body is." If it's someone from Aragiri, there's no need to hold back. Ryoga stood outside observing, dropping an instruction. Don't finish him off in one hit. I still have a few things to test. The Dragonoid's eyes showed a flash of confusion, but holding back is much harder. Sadek decisively charged forward to attack. I'll show you where your place is. Without a single hesitation, he swung his sword straight at the Dragonoid. It lightly jumped up, easily dodging the attack. Sadek didn't stop, retaliating with the Kai-Rak spearmanship, third form lightning reflex footwork. Every time the Dragonoid launched an attack, Sadek dodged it perfectly and counterattacked immediately. Next was the Kai-Rak spearmanship, second form. Last time when I broke your nose, you cried like a baby. Seeing the situation, Jamin smiled and reflected. His reactions are even better than during practice. Perhaps this will end faster than I thought. Seeing this, the Dragonoid loudly dismissed. You think such a slow attack can actually hit the enemy? Seeing it completely unharmed, Sadek was momentarily stunned. Then he tightened his grip on his weapon, his mind trembling. I can't move. The Dragonoid glared, growling insults. How pathetic, attacking without even thinking about the next move. Pausing for a moment, it spoke mockingly. If this were a real battlefield, you'd be dead for sure. Speaking of this, the Dragonoid suddenly remembered. I have to hold back. The Dragonoid decisively swung its arm to strike a blow at Sadek. Just one hit was enough to make him collapse on the spot. Sadek screamed loudly in pain. Seeing this, Ryoga walked over, gently reminding. Last time when I broke your nose, you cried so miserably. Following that, he turned to taunt Sadek. Now you only screamed for a bit. Commendable for your growth. Sadek yelled angrily, you bastard. Seeing him about to lunge forward to attack, the Dragonoid stepped up to shield him. Sadek still rushed over madly with his weapon in hand. The Dragonoid fiercely stomped a foot onto the ground. An impact that caused the surrounding ground to crack and shatter into pieces. The scene just now made Sadek even more terrified. Seeing this, the Dragonoid narrowed its eyes mockingly. If you use a move twice, the opponent will read you immediately. As soon as it finished speaking, it delivered a straight kick to his leg. Just a single kick was enough to snap Sadek's leg bone in half. The horrifying pain hit him, making his eyes widen as he screamed in agony. The Dragonoid broke into an eerie smile. It's over. Finishing its sentence, it threw in an extra arm swing. Witnessing that scene, Sadek's face turned pale with only one thought left in his head. I'm done for. Right at the critical moment, a voice rang out, stop. Jamin angrily clenched his fists, storming over. Seeing Jamin furious, it smiled smugly. They stopped earlier than I thought. Sadek sat on the ground in pain. The system immediately issued a notification. Match ended. Jamin anxiously ran over to Sadek, checked his injuries, and hastily said, I'll find a priest right away, you wait here. Ryoga leisurely walked over, pointing his thumb back at his own chest. No need to look far, a living priest is standing right here. The other guy immediately brushed it off. Are you crazy? How can the lowest level healing spell fix broken bones? He just calmly approached, nodding to confirm, yeah, I know. Noticing that Ryoga was still in his Adam suit, Jamin turned around in annoyance. Then what the hell do you plan to do to heal him? He quickly pulled a potion out of his inventory. I'll use a mid-grade potion. Seeing this, Sadek grimaced and growled, a bit disgruntled. A mid-grade potion costs millions, right? And didn't your familiar give me this crippled leg in the first place? Ryoga just shrugged, answering nonchalantly. Seems like you're behind the times. News about the mass production of mid-grade potions is everywhere. Right as he was about to apply it, Sadek yelled in pain. Never heard of it. I don't need charity from the winner. Get lost, all of you get lost. Seeing him whining endlessly, Ryoga shouted, Hey, I'm trying to help you, just accept it obediently. As soon as he finished speaking, he secretly calculated. This was exactly when he needed a live advertisement for his product. Ryoga didn't hesitate to pour the potion straight onto the wound, accompanied by a meaningful smile. I didn't expect to have a test subject readily available like this. What a godsend. A brightly glowing stream of medicinal liquid flowed into the wound right at Sadek's knee. Witnessing the unbelievable sight, Jamin was completely stunned. No way is it actually effective. The bones are perfectly reconnected. At that very moment, a thought consumed Jamin's mind. I must get my hands on that potion. After finishing treating Sadek's wound, Ryoga stood up with a completely satisfied look on his face. Jamin immediately stepped forward, biting his lip in hesitation before asking, "That mid-grade potion, where did you buy it?" Hearing the anticipated question, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up. The fish has taken the bait. Ryoga pondered for a moment, then asked, "If you're a captain in Aragiri, you must be around 3-star rank, right?" Jamin nodded bluntly. "Yes, what about it?" He glanced at the opponent, scoffing. "Fight me one match, and I'll give you the info about the potion." This proposal took Jamin slightly by surprise. "So you're still not satisfied, as long as you're willing to tell me, regardless of winning or losing." Ryoga sighed wearily, thinking the previous match was too fleeting. "This time I want a serious match." The familiars of both Ryoga and Jamin had taken their positions in the arena, completely ready. Right after, a cold notification from the system flashed. Match started. Right in the first attack, Jamin charged up like a storm with his full sword technique. Fifth form sharp chilling strike. At the moment of impact, he secretly evaluated in his head. Reflecting Sadake's thrust is impressive indeed, but... Jamin observed the Dragonoid carefully and made a judgment. With that bulky body, everything has its limits. Right at this moment, the system displayed a damage warning. Seizing the opportunity, Jamin immediately lunged forward to attack the Dragonoid. Standing outside, Ryoga observed carefully. Everything is exactly as I predicted. Kashiwaga's high-speed fighting style is completely incompatible with the Dragonoid's body, which specializes in heavy melee combat. That thought made the corners of his mouth curl up in triumph. This was exactly why he threw out the precious potion as bait, hooking Jamin into the trap. Looking at the Dragonoid covered in dirt and seemingly exhausted, he pondered inwardly. Facing an opponent with an incompatible fighting style, Fafnir must have realized that too. The Dragonoid now spoke in a tired voice. "I guess I'll use this match to get used to this heavy body." Ryoga frowned, but his eyes were brimming with pride. "Good mindset, truly worthy of being my right-hand man." After speaking, he reached out his hand, and a dark energy named Unholy Blessing gathered. Ryoga smiled eerily. "Well then, I can't just stand by and watch." That surge of power instantly integrated into the Dragonoid's body, making it feel reborn. Unholy Blessing. The system panel displayed the information. Unholy Blessing, type, Divine Art. Enhances the power of the selected undead while simultaneously weakening non-undead targets. All stats of target Fafnir increased by 20%. Seeing this scene, Jamin couldn't help but be amazed. Can a holy buff spell be this strong? This is insane. Ryoga shot energy tentacles towards Jamin. Here comes the next one. Immediately, his body was tightly bound by energy chains, his strength seeming to drain away. Unholy Blessing. My body is so heavy. The system displayed a notification. Due to the effects of Unholy Blessing, all stats decreased by 10%. Jamin's face grew darker and darker, strengthening allies, weakening enemies. Is this guy really just a 1-star? Kronos witnessed this and couldn't help but feel smug. "See that? That's the new magic eye bestowed upon you." Ryoga just smirked. "Not bad for a low-level star." He opened his mouth to retort, daring to call me low-level, you little. But he quickly covered Kronos' mouth, reminding him, "We're in the middle of a match, keep quiet." Ryoga's expression became highly focused. Next. System update. Retribution has been activated. The target receives grudge points whenever they take damage. Releasing grudge will deal damage based on the accumulated points. Retribution X Impure Blessing. He left everything entirely to Kashiwagi. "Do as you please." His oppressive aura erupted once again. That is a perfect order. Jamin's figure split into 3, moving nimbly to face Kashiwagi. While the system voice rang out incessantly, "Retribution has been activated. Retribution has been activated." For a brief moment, he struggled a bit. He couldn't believe a 2-star Aragiri could adapt so quickly to a stat reduction. But seeing his opponent firmly block all of his attacks, Jamin couldn't help but feel terrified. A 1-star summon that can both withstand a 3-star's attack and still push forward. Retribution has been activated. Warning: defense is decreasing due to continuous damage. Kashiwaga's eyes flashed and he told himself, forget about the speed-based fighting style of humans. This body is an undead. No matter how much damage it takes, its movements won't be affected. Streaks of blood splattered across his abs and clothes. Stop dodging, just endure the hits and close in for melee combat. Immediately after, he lunged forward, closing the distance in the blink of an eye. Kashiwagi leaned in and threw a powerful punch. Jamin couldn't react in time, completely unable to dodge his attack. Kensei Martial Arts Chapter 7, 10 Consecutive Strikes. Seizing the opportunity, Kashiwagi continuously rained earth-shattering punches down on his opponent. Jamin was completely overwhelmed. The excruciating pain made him cry out loud. He staggered and fell to the ground. Damn it, my health has almost completely evaporated. That is definitely not a one-star summon. The system displayed HP minus 25%. His face twisted into a grotesque grimace. If I take another hit like that, will I lose? At this thought, Jamin's killing intent flared up, and his eyes grew dangerously sharp. Stop messing around. A 3-star Aragiri would never lose to a mere 1-star. He immediately regained his momentum and lunged forward. I am faster. The summoners themselves must be incredibly weak. Before Kashiwagi could even react, Jamin dashed past him at an incredible speed. If I can just get close to him. Sure enough, his target this time was Ryoga. A surge of excitement swelled within Jamin, thinking he had victory in the bag. Sval sword style, 12th form, penetration. The razor-sharp tip of the sword thrust straight toward his face. However, Ryoga remained incredibly calm. I knew you were going to do that. Then he simply raised his hand and gave a light flick. Release retribution. Instantly, a terrifying invisible force emerged, violently blasting Jamin away. Fafnir, released, the accumulated retribution formed a massive shockwave. Finally, he lay motionless on the ground, and a notification rang out. Jamin Raygo's health has dropped to 0. The match is over. The scene shifted to a luxurious skyscraper. Aragiri Guild, inside a spacious room. On the desk sat a formal nameplate, Vice Guild Master Hakuho Naruhito. Bizarugal sat in the head chair, raising his voice to ask the person opposite him, "Are you saying that intermediate potions can be mass-produced?" That was the number 2 of Aragiri, the 7-star hunter Hakuho Naruhito. Jamin, his face still bearing wounds, carefully replied, "Yes, sir, that is absolutely correct." He rested his chin on his hand, his expression still skeptical. "Have you thoroughly tested its effectiveness?" He firmly confirmed once again. "It healed my fractured bones in an instant. Its effectiveness is on par with the intermediate potions dropped from gates." Suddenly, as if remembering something, Jamin cautiously glanced at his superior. Then took the initiative to speak. "Vice Guild Master, I am incredibly sorry," Jamin said sincerely. "I have disgraced the Aragiri Guild and I will take full responsibility for it." But Bizarugal simply crossed his arms and retorted, "Why would the reputation of Aragiri collapse just because Captain Jamin suffered a defeat?" He reflexively tried to explain, losing to a nameless 1-star hunter, but he was sharply cut off. The reputation of Aragiri. The expression on Bizarugal's face turned terrifying. "Do you really think it would crumble just because a veteran 3-star lost a match?" Jamin was immediately overwhelmed by that aura, his voice trembling unconsciously. "I apologize, I was speaking out of line regarding the guild's reputation." After everything was settled, he finally spoke to end the meeting. "All right, you may leave." But the moment he walked out, Bizarugal ordered his female subordinate, "Demote Captain Jamin to a regular member. Additionally, investigate the origin of those intermediate potions." The girl replied, "Yes, sir." He stared at the computer screen, which was replaying the entire battle from earlier. In his mind, Bizarugal couldn't stop thinking about Ryoga. The fact that a 1-star hunter's summoned beast could take down a 3-star was completely unimaginable. His fingers tapped rhythmically on the armrest, revealing his deep calculations. He claims to be a priest. Is it possible that he possesses a divine beast tier summoned creature? Ultimately, Bizarugal made his decision. "Chinan, was it? Investigate that guy as well." The girl replied, "Understood." Meanwhile, Ryoga was also bringing him up. By now, the top brass of Aragiri must already know about the potion. I'm quite curious to see their reaction. Kashiwagi crossed his arms and looked at him. "Hey," Ryoga replied, "what is it?" He held up a book. "Why do I have to read a spearman's skill book?" He quickly explained, "You're a magic gladiator, specializing in close combat and weapon usage, right? I figured learning from your experience would be best." Kashiwagi flipped through a few pages, pondering. "You're handing me a pretty troublesome task, but why spear arts all of a sudden?" Suddenly recalling the moment Sadek lunged forward to attack him, Ryoga felt a wave of annoyance. "Whenever things get dangerous, everyone targets me. It pisses me off." Hearing this, Kashiwagi laughed so hard he teared up. Targeting the weakest link is just common sense. The more he spoke, the louder he laughed, not missing the chance to tease him. A master who is even weaker than his own right-hand man. Go drink some protein shakes and hit the gym, kid. Ryoga frowned in sheer dissatisfaction. Suddenly he looked down at his raised arm. My left arm is moving on its own. Wait a minute, right after that. A loud smack rang out sharply. Kashiwagi instantly did a 180-degree shift in attitude, a massive lump visibly swelling on his head, and spoke in a sugary tone. Understood, my lord. I have fully comprehended this spear manual. I shall now instruct you. Ryoga nodded in approval. Truly worthy of the title of Magic Gladiator, your learning speed is quite impressive. With that said, he tossed the book back to him. Master should commit it to memory as well. Ryoga easily caught the book. Basic Spear Techniques of the Take-Da Clan. Type Skill Book. A book detailing the fundamental spear techniques passed down through the Take-Da Clan. Even a child could learn it as long as they understood the contents. Thinking of this, Ryoga told himself, if I can master this, I'll be able to recreate Death Vortex on my own in the future. Death Vortex is a skill developed by a superstar spearman whom he greatly admired, built entirely upon the techniques of the Take-Da Clan. Normally, it would take years to perfect, but in this life, I will complete it myself. His expression turned slightly sinister, the corners of his lips curling into a smirk. This is the privilege of a reincarnator. I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. Right after that, the book dissolved, transforming into a hovering streak of golden light. Ryoga is using a skill book, Basic Spear Techniques of the Take-Da Clan. The system notified. Skill data has been installed. He quickly absorbed the influx of new knowledge. Just as expected, skill books are absolutely amazing. I have mastered the spear techniques in an instant. First form, thrust. Second form, flash thrust. Third form, wind and water spin. Fourth form, shaft strike. Fifth form, fierce sweep. Sixth form, full-powered thrust. A total of 6 forms, quite simple. All of a sudden, Kashiwagi leaped high into the air. Just like you said, I'm a great teacher. Ryoga stood there bewildered, not quite grasping what was happening, and could only stare up at him. Gripping a staff, Kashiwagi gathered momentum from midair and aimed straight down at where he was standing. Physical techniques can only be truly learned through actual combat experience. Immediately after, a massive explosion rang out, kicking up a thick cloud of dust from the ground. As the dust gradually settled, Kashiwagi had already assumed a combat-ready stance. Now then, master, let's begin our practical combat training.